Looks like it. I know that she's traveling this afternoon, but she should be joining us.
Okay, then I think we will wait maybe another minute just to see if she is able to make it. Well, it doesn't look like anybody else has logged on. Should we just go ahead and hope that she, okay, hops on. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Watsonville Planning Commission meeting on July 13th, 2021. My name is Jenny Beach Olson. I'm the chair. Oh, we're also waiting for Commissioner Dodge.
Oh, yeah.
So we are currently missing 2 commissioners. I think, well, should we just go ahead and?
You have a quorum,
Yeah.
so
Okay,
you could begin the meeting, do the Pledge of Allegiance, maybe do the introductory things before we get the substantive matters, and by then, hopefully, they'll be here.
okay, sounds good. So then should I just put off roll call until?
No, you'll proceed with roll call.
Okay.
I think Deborah will indicate in the minutes when they arrive. Is that right, Deborah?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Perfect. Deborah, why don't we proceed with roll call then? Thank you.
Acosta,
Here.
Cole,
Here.
Dodge, Durantes Polito,
Here.
Cameron,
Here.
Rojas, Beach Olson.
Here. All right. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand in place if you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag for the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now we're going to move on to oral communications. This is the time set aside in our meeting for members of the general public to address the planning commission on any issue that is not on the agenda, which is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the planning commission. Do we have any members of the public who would like to address the commission right now? For me,
I do not see any hands up.
I don't see any hands up either. Commissioner Dodge, it's good to see you this evening. Okay, are there any oral communications from members of the planning commission? Yes, Commissioner Dodge and then Commissioner Cole.
Thank you very much. I'm prepared to have other remarks at a later date. I just wanted to be able to comment about the surroundings that were around Measure U that was passed in our community many years ago, and the recent attempts by folks in the that are interested in moving forward in placing boundaries around our community in the name of Measure U. The local petition drive, even if you look on their website and find other information, does not allow for growth in the Buena Vista area, limitations on our community, part of the no growth environmentalist agenda from particularly from North County and members of the local ag community. And while I might get a lot of criticism for bringing it up like that because of my own history of pro-annexation attempts, Measure U put boundaries, limitations on growth, on housing, and strangled this community for many, many years. I say that as a member who gathered signatures for the original Member U ballot initiative many years ago. A lot of history which should come out, and hopefully it does. I know the city's going to be doing some numbers, statistics, and some interest in and some points of view and counter to the recent initiative drive. Well, I continuously ask our staff why we're not operating under the 2005, why we're operating under the 2005 general plan and not the 2030 general plan that went through an extensive community participation process. And that was due to litigation. I'll let the lawyers sort out the legal words so I don't get sued by saying the wrong thing at this particular time. The 2030 plan that we put into place, and I say we because I was sitting on this planning commission at that time, and we had very extensive hearings. We had meetings with the community, just as the forerunner of what it is that we do today to be able to reach out and communicate with the public. So we did those kind of things to be able to look at how Watsonville can grow. And that's not just grow to where we pave all the way to North County and such. Our city has been strangled for over the years by the Coastal Commission, where we had several fights between the Local Agency Formation Commission, again, which I was a member of at one time. And there's a whole history to growth, or lack of, in our community. Our community houses working class folks that supply labor all over the Monterey Bay Peninsula. When we talk about housing and we talk about arena numbers and we talk about such like that, we're still operating under a general plan that was created for 2005, not for 2020. And so I ask all my commissioners, I ask the public, I'm sure there's some folks here that are listening already saying, why doesn't that guy go away? Well, I did, I'm back.
Oh, I think he froze.
Coastal Commission, Paharaka that operate in our community. I might be going over time. There's a whole history to it. I ask people to ask the questions, to be able to dig in the research, and don't sign on to something blindly that will limit our self-determination on where we go as a community, because that's what this is about. It's about a minority, majority community having self-determination to make decisions on its own. It's not about having people have nice views on their way to Monterey to go to dinner. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dodge. Commissioner Rojas, it's good to see you this evening. Thanks for joining us. Commissioner Cole, you had a comment?
Yes, just a couple of quick announcements. The rail trail, segment 18, our little slice of heaven down here in Watsonville, will be opening this week, Saturday, the 17th, 10 a.m. There are several agencies that will be represented and have booths and swag, the stuff we all give away, as well as a community bike ride down there on segment 18, which is at the end of Kearney Street. You can access through the end of Kearney, or you can access from Ohlone Parkway just past Second Harvest Food Bank. There's also the Watsonville Criterium, which it's in its more than 40th year. They didn't have it last year, but that is a circuit race in the neighborhood areas of Brewington and Rogers and Oregon Street. It's quite fun to watch. That starts at about 10 o'clock as well on Saturday, the 17th. So, but you might have time to catch some of the early races before. It might even start earlier, like 9, and then head over to the rail trail. There have just been, we've had a lot of really great community rides in the last month or so. 4th of July community bike ride was really, really awesome. Thanks to everyone that came out and participated in that. You all made it a really great day. We had a elect bus that made the rounds of the decorated homes in the area. So we had house floats instead of ballots, and we brought the parade to them. So that was a really fun event as well. The Vision Zero Task Force in Watsonville is on. I'm trying to get Watsonville to increase the caliber of their bike-friendly community. So we are looking in how to move from the bronze status that we have now to a silver status, and also a walk-friendly community, and which we haven't ever applied for. So those are positive things that are going on with walking and biking in the city. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Any other comments from fellow commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Rojas.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for being a few minutes late. I'm just coming in from being on vacation and just arrived home, but I've been looking forward to seeing all of you. So apologies for being late. I did want to share that I had the opportunity to participate in a great community event at the end of the month on Saturday, June 26th, and that was the unveiling of the various frames, the art frames around town, and that included about 1.5 mile, 2 mile walk, I would say, starting in downtown in the plaza, and that was a really lovely event. There were quite a few people, families. It was a really nice experience in terms of experiencing art, meeting the artists themselves who are a part of the walk along with their families, and then also being outdoors and outside. It was just a really nice sort of fall, post-pandemic activity, and the county was involved in terms of the parks portion. So that was a really nice event. So I just wanted to share that, and I'm happy to see all of you and look forward to a real productive meeting this evening.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any more comments, so I think we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the May minutes?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion from Dodge and a second from,
I'll move the second.
oh, from Commissioner Kammer or Vice Chair Dorantes Polito, or I'm not sure who did it first.
I think it was Commissioner Kammer.
Okay, can I have a vote, please?
Acosta, Acosta,
You're muted.
Maybe we can come back to him at the end.
I'll go ahead. Cole,
Yes.
Dodge,
Yes.
Dorantes Polito,
Yes.
Kammer,
Yes.
Rojas,
Yes.
Beach Olson,
Yes,
Acosta,
Yes.
motion passed.
okay. And we're on to our public hearings this evening. The first public hearing is a special use permit with environmental review, application number 1624, to allow for the establishment of a cannabis retail store with delivery and proposed tenant improvements located at 11 Hanger Way. I believe we're going to begin with a staff report.
Good evening, planning commissioners. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. My name is Ivan Carmona, Associate Planner for the Community Development Department, and tonight I'll be presenting a special use permit for a proposed cannabis retail facility for The Hook. Tonight's presentation will briefly review the background of the project, the process for the cannabis facilities, project site and operating procedures, followed by findings, and then ending with staff recommendation. Background. So the subject property at 11 Hanger Way was developed in 1991 with a 22,070 square foot industrial building demised into 6 tenant spaces. On August 23rd, 2016, a special use permit was approved by the Planning Commission for a proposed cannabis cultivation facility at 9 Hanger Way, Suite 2 for GrowCo, owned and operated by Bryce Berryessa. On December 28th, 2017, an administrative use permit was approved by the zoning administrator for a proposed cannabis manufacturing and distribution facility at 9 Hanger Way, Suite 1A and 1B, also owned and operated by Bryce Berryessa. Recently, on May 13, 2021, a special use permit for a new cannabis retail location at 11 Hanger Way was submitted. Here is the location, also owned and operated by Bryce Berryessa. On this next slide, you'll see a vicinity map of the city of Watsonville. The yellow dot shows the subject site in relation to the city limits. As you see on the slide here, the facility is located adjacent to the Watsonville Municipal Airport, close to Airport Boulevard and easy access to Highway 1. And there's the arrow showing you where the exact location. Now we're going to discuss briefly the process. So for cannabis pre-application, prior to them even submitting for a special use permit, they were required to go through a pre-application. Phase 1 required the applicants to submit a pre-application packet of 125 pages. The business owners were required to have a live scan background check. For the pre-application, no project site was required, and the pre-application evaluated qualification of owners, business plan, labor and employment plan, neighborhood plan, and community benefits. Total maximum points for phase 1 was 1,000 points. Phase 2 was the pre-application evaluation and first ranking. This evaluation and review was done by HDL consultant who scored and reviewed each application. Those selected to continue in the cannabis pre-application process were invited to phase 3. Phase 3 required an interview by the Cannabis Selection Committee, consisting of the Community Development Director, the Police Chief, Fire Chief, City Manager Designee, and the Finance Director. Phase 3 in-person interviews had a maximum points of 1,500 and also reviewed the business plan, labor and employment plan, community benefits, and qualification of owners. Now, you may be asking, what's the difference between phase 2 and phase 3? Phase 2 was the pre-application packet, and phase 3 was to actually interview the owners to see if they actually understood what they submitted to the city. Do they know the packet they submitted? Do they understand it back and forth? Can they answer the questions we provided to them in the in-person interview? For phase 4, phase 2 and phase 3 scores were combined. As you see here on this slide, the Hook ranked first in the phase 4 process and received the 97.20% and 2,430 points out of 2,500. Now, once the pre-application packet was approved by the Cannabis Selection Committee, the applicants were invited to submit a conditional use permit. So this applicant selected as location in the IP zoning district. Cannabis retail facilities are subject to a special use permit in the IP zoning district approved by the Planning Commission. That's why we are here. For all entitlement applications, environmental reviews are required, and that is to consider the potential environmental impacts of a project before making a decision on it. Now, the purpose of CEQA and for all entitlement applications is to disclose any potential impacts of a project and suggest methods to minimize identified impacts. Now, with all entitlement applications and special use permits approved or denied by the Planning Commission, those can be appealed to the City Council. In order for an official action to be overturned, the City Council must find that the action taken by the Planning Commission was erroneous or inconsistent with the intent of the zoning district regulations. All entitlement applications approved or denied by the Planning Commission are subject to appeal. Now we're gonna talk about the project site and operating conditions. The proposed project is a 3,012 square foot cannabis retail facility. They are proposing to be open 7 days a week, opening at 11:30 a.m., closing at 7 p.m. They're gonna have 5 employees per shift with a maximum of 15 employees. The ownership structure, the company name is Berryessa Holdings, LLC, DBA, The Hook. So DBA doing business as The Hook. 2 owners, Bryce Berryessa is 50% owner, and Kyle Giorgino, I hope I pronounced that right, is also 50% owner. Now we're gonna talk and discuss the floor plan. For the floor plan, the project proposes a 234 square foot marketing and conference room, a 156 square foot office, a 92 square foot non-cannabis storage area, a 546 square foot retail display area, a 214 square foot break room, 190 square foot loading and unloading area, a 271 square foot storage and cannabis waste area, a 300 square foot customer sales area, a 90 square foot security room records room, with 2 restrooms totaling 3,012 square feet. Here in this slide is the project site in relation to the nearby uses. The site is predominantly surrounded by industrial park uses. To the east is single family development as well as a mobile home park. Now, as far as the floor plan circulation, I'm gonna briefly describe how customers will come into the facility. They'll come into the main entrance here and go into the retail display area where there'll be kind of like a waiting room. As they choose the products they purchase, they'll move towards the marketing conference room and into the counter sales area where they'll make their purchase. Once the purchase is made, they will exit towards the exit. So 1 entrance and 1 exit as they flow through the facility. Now, one important thing with cannabis facilities is They must determine the premise diagram as far as demonstrating where the limited access areas, secure areas, and common areas are located. Here, on the first couple images, you see the common areas. These areas are limited only to customers. The rest of the facilities or rooms are secured by card key access, which would be allowed for employees. The following areas that you see are limited to employees only. Again, card key access readers will limit who can be allowed to go into these rooms. The last three areas that you see in red are the secure areas, which are only limited to management. And all these are going to be secured by card key access readers. So prior to them getting a certificate of occupancy, during the building permit stage, we'll ensure that all these security devices are in place prior to them opening their doors to the public. Now, as far as the floor plan, video surveillance is also very important for cannabis. As you see here on this slide, there are multiple cameras in each room, exterior and interior. They are required to have this 24/7 to be recording continuously and to retain all video footage for a minimum of 40 days. As you see here on this plan, there are over 20 cameras. Excuse me, I went back. Let me go back. Sorry about that. There we go. There are over 20 cameras on site, and this will be accessed by the Watsonville Police Department to monitor in case of any nuisance or break-in, burglaries. This is to ensure safety and security for the site and the surrounding areas. All right, now we're going to discuss parking. For this site, the cannabis retail facility requires 20 spaces. It's a big space. It's 3,000 square feet in size. 20 spaces are required for this facility. The adjacent spaces for La Vida Verde, which is manufacturing distribution, require 14 parking spaces. The cultivation facility requires 10 spaces. That's a total of 49 spaces. The facility provides 63 total parking spaces, with the remaining 19 spaces for the 2 tenant spaces for Schnabel Construction and Top Tech Machine Shop. Another important requirement for cannabis is separation requirements. As you see here, here is the subject site at 11 Hanger Way. The nearest sensitive use is the Mobile Home Park at 525 Airport Boulevard. Now, the way to measure for this distance requirement is through the path of travel from the nearest property line to the front door of the facility. So as you see here, oh, excuse me, let me back up a second. At 547 Airport Boulevard is a proposed 21 townhome subdivision that will be heard within the next month or two by City Council. So this is also as a potential sensitive use. But first, we're going to focus on 525 Airport Boulevard. As you see here in this path of travel, it's 905 feet approximately. And from the proposed future 21 townhome subdivision, if we measure from the path of travel from nearest property line to the front door of the facility, it is approximately 719 feet. It meets the separation requirements from nearby sensitive uses, and it's a site eligible for cannabis-related uses. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the report, all entitlement applications require an environmental review. This project does qualify for a Class 1 category exemption, as the project is considered a minor alteration of an existing facility located in an urbanized area where all necessary public services and facilities are available and the surrounding area is not environmentally sensitive. Now I'm going to briefly go over the findings. I'm going to focus on 4 findings. Finding number 2 for this project: the proposed use is compatible with and preserves the character and integrity of adjacent development and neighborhoods. As I demonstrated in the report, the site meets the separation requirements from all sensitive uses. We are conditioning the project with standard security and monitoring conditions that would be monitored by the Watsonville Police Department. The Watsonville Police Department also reviewed these application and found the subject site to have no nuisances. Not only will security, alarm systems, and monitoring will be present on site, security is required to be provided 24/7, whether through a private security firm. They are required to have a contract with a security firm to provide security 24/7. Now, how is that going to work at nighttime? They're not going to be there all night for 12 hours a day. They're going to be there monitoring 1 hour a time driving by the facility for an hour, coming back. So hopefully they'll be routinely monitoring the site throughout the evening, an hour at a time. Now for finding number 3, the proposed use will not generate pedestrian or vehicular traffic that will be hazardous or conflict with the existing and anticipated traffic in the neighborhood. The site has sufficient parking. There's 63 parking spaces with enough entrances for automobiles to circulate. The business will be open 7 days a week from 11:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. The surrounding nearby uses also have retail component where people come in and out. It's going to align with the existing uses in the surrounding neighborhood. There's going to be 5 employees per shift. As I mentioned earlier, 63 parking spaces are provided on site. Now for finding number 5, the proposed use incorporates features to minimize adverse effects, including visual impacts and noise of the proposed special use on adjacent properties. So one concern we have for cannabis facilities is people loitering, people making noise. That's why security is required to be on site to discourage any loitering. No products are to be used on site. So when someone purchases a cannabis product, there's no smoking signs going to be available all throughout the facility, letting people know that you cannot consume the product on site. 24/7 security will be available as well. And also security lighting with motion detectors will be installed on the facility. Now the final finding, the proposed special use will not be material detrimental to the public health, safety, convenience, and welfare, and will not result in material damage or prejudice to other property in the vicinity. The findings, if you read through the report, are redundant because we're focusing on security, safety, video surveillance, monitoring. Not only that, all cannabis facilities in the city of Wattsville are required to be renewed on a yearly basis. That is the city's opportunity to see if the applicant or owners have been compliant with the conditions. With the yearly annual renewal, the city does have an opportunity to look at the application again, look at the site and see if it should allow the continued use. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution approving the special use permit with environmental review to allow a cannabis retail with tenant improvements for The Hook DBA Berryessa Holdings located at 11 Hanger Way. That concludes staff's report. I'll be happy to answer any questions the commissioners have.
Thank you, Ivan. At this time, I'll open it up for commissioners to ask any clarifying or technical questions of the city staff. Commissioner Dodge, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, staff. Ivan, how are you, sir? Great. Hey, I did have a question in the initial slide, and I want to thank you for your extensive work. I know that for us to be able to get to this process on the agenda item, it's gone through years of processing. So I appreciate all the work that has gone through. In fact, I have very little questions because I felt like a lot of questions have been asked at so many different phases of this, that what we're being asked tonight is to approve the special use permit on the environmental review. So I'm satisfied with a lot of things that you've already stated through the process. But on your first slide, if you in the PowerPoint, you had something about in I believe it was number 4, number 5 about employment or labor was one of the labor and employment plan. I look for that. Can you tell me a little bit about the labor and employment plan, and what it is that would allow an applicant to be able to score high, or the higher receive a higher score out of that?
Yes, I'll do my best to answer, but I can leave most of the answer for the property or the business owner to do that. What we looked at in the labor and employment plan is having a cannabis facility in the city. What type of prevailing wages will they provide to the community or the proposed or incoming employees? They needed to have something that's going to be a living wage, someone that can afford to live here in the city. We're looking at something between $20 an hour. That offers insurance and sick days. That's something that we looked at or the Cannabis Selection Committee looked at to give the prospective businesses a higher point. Some didn't have a labor and employment plan. Some offered just the minimum wage. Some didn't offer any insurance benefits or vacation and sick time. So that played a key part in receiving a higher score in that section.
And granted, and since this is one of the two applicants that survived the process and have gone forward, and how do I judge that labor employment plan if I didn't see it necessarily in the packet? You know, I saw a lot of pertaining to security and a lot of other land uses. But if that was part of the process, would it be fair to ask the applicant, or is there something else that you can comment about?
Yes, I would leave that for the applicant to answer. The special use permit, just to reiterate, does not focus on labor and employment. That was part of the pre-application process to score the applicants to see if they can get to a special use permit stage to go through that process. But I'll allow the business owner to answer more questions related to that.
Granted, that's that's my understanding of what's not necessarily in the packet. It's not necessarily involved with the special use permit, but since it was part of the applicant being able to move forward in the process, and because we want to bring prevailing wages, livable wages in our community with medical insurance, not like other industries that supplement us without medical insurance or providing housing or education for their workforce. We have a lot of those kind of economic jobs in our community, and I wanted to be able to find out what was the correct process to be able to kind of give some satisfactory answers to that. So once again, I appreciate it, and I'll reserve my questions for the applicant. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Rojas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Ivan, for the presentation and for the thorough report as well. So I just have a few questions. So first I wanted to ask, so I understand that there are 3 special use permits available based on work that the City Council and Planning Commissions have done in the past and the staff. So is that correct? There's to be up to 3 retail locations selling cannabis in the city?
Correct. The city has provided 3 licenses.
Okay.
Tonight you'll be hearing 2.
Okay.
And if everything gets worked out, hopefully in September or August, you'll be hearing the 3rd.
Okay, so that was going to be my question. My question was, when can we anticipate to see the 3rd presentation or request come through? So you said about maybe September?
Yes, the applicant already submitted the application. We're going through the review right now.
Okay.
It depends on the business owners on how much they submit at the first stage in order for staff to determine if we have a complete application or incomplete. Unfortunately, for the 3rd cannabis retail facility, it is deemed incomplete. So the applicant is going to have to resubmit in response to to those items that we've addressed.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you. So that was my first question. And just so that I'm connecting tonight's conversation to our conversation from last month, the three applications that are coming forward, including the 2 from this evening, were the top 3 finalists in the assessment process.
Correct.
Okay, and then I have another question. So last month when we discussed the appeal from one of the applicants, it was mentioned that one of the 3 permits or licenses would be awarded to what was considered an equity candidate. And I don't remember exactly what the parameters of that were, but is this application considered an equity applicant? And if so, what deems it as an equity applicant?
No, the items you're hearing tonight are not equity applicants. The 3rd applicant is the equity applicant, and you'll hear more about it when I do present to the planning commission.
Okay. And so how will the 3rd applicant be distinguished from these 2 that we'll hear tonight?
They're distinguished by that they're equity applicants, meaning that they meet 3 of the 9 criteria to be an equity applicant.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And then my next question is, the presentation mentions 15 employees. Do you know if those are will those all be 15 new jobs in the community, or is the applicant like transferring employees from another part of their organization? Or do you know if these will be 15 new jobs that will be hired?
I will let the property owner or business owner answer that question, but from what I gathered in the application, they're gonna have 5 employees and up to a maximum of 15. So it doesn't mean that they're gonna have
Oh,
15 immediate jobs, but maybe the business owner can answer that specifically.
okay, okay. And then my last question is as a commission, are there any parameters that we're to consider in terms of where these 3 retail locations can be in relation to one another? Like, do they have to be like separated a certain distance from one another, or is that not part of any of the city ordinances?
The separation requirements do not take into account existing facilities within each other. What we take into account is schools, parks, daycares, sensitive uses such as residential homes. So we have green zones in the city, such as the industrial park and the general industrial zoning areas. Those areas are designated as our green belts, where we would like to see proposed cannabis facilities. So to answer your question, no, the city did not have separation requirements for existing cannabis facilities.
Okay. Okay. So essentially, when we look at these 3 applicants, they could be essentially like on the same street. And that wouldn't be against any ordinances.
Correct. Essentially, they could be located within the same zone on separate properties, adjacent or abutting each other.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Are there any other clarifying or technical questions for city staff? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to invite the applicant to make his presentation.
Hi. Hello, commissioners. My name is Bryce Berryessa. I'm here on behalf of this project. First off, I want to thank the Planning Commission for taking the time to look at our project this evening, and also thank Mr. Carmona for the thorough and well-researched and accurate presentation that he just gave to all of the commissioners. As Mr. Carmona stated, I am one of the first licensed cannabis business owners in the city of Watsonville. We've conducted business and been part of the process in Watsonville since 2015. I was on then Mayor Felipe Hernandez Cannabis Advisory Committee. So it's the culmination of a long and interesting journey to be able to talk with you this evening to hopefully have the opportunity to open a dispensary in the city of Watsonville. We have 2 businesses at the same premises that have operated for several years now. In that time, we've never had any issues, complaints, or negative impact on the environment. We've passed every local and state compliance audit that's been conducted in that time, of which there's been several. And I think that we've proven ourselves as solid operators and members of the community. The nice part about this location is it is at the same premise as which cannabis operations have been conducted for several years now. It was a former wine showroom and wine sales room. So it is a kind of an exchange of one type of retail for another. And, you know, in addition to my operations in Watsonville, I do have the privilege to operate the first licensed cannabis business in the county of Santa Cruz and the first licensed dispensary. I do operate 2 dispensaries in the county of Santa Cruz as well, and have over 10 years of experience in dispensary operations. So our team is very much looking forward to expanding our retail operations to serve the residents of Watsonville and the surrounding communities. And I'm just available right now if you have any specific questions about the project, the site, our operating or security procedures. I'm happy to address any questions or concerns that you may have.
Thank you for your presentation. I'd like to open it up to the commissioners for any questions for the applicant. Vice Chair Dorantes Pulido.
Thank you. Chair Beach Olson. Good evening, Mr. Berryessa. Thank you for being open to answer our questions. Now, I know this question doesn't pertain to the special use permit, but to my benefit, noticing that you're one of the top ranking applicants, what is, and I'm curious, what is your community benefit answer that you gave to the city staff?
Sure. Yeah. My first dispensary in the county was called Treehouse, and our tagline is rooted in community, and community activism and participation is a fundamental duty and responsibility I feel I have as a business owner. And so for Treehouse, we do things a little bit differently than the Hook. Our community benefits plan for the Hook is that at the end of each calendar year, we look at our total net profits and are going to work directly with members of city management and the community to allocate a minimum of 5% of those net profits to hyperlocal organizations that are doing good in the community. So where at Treehouse, we try to partner with a lot of different communities throughout the year. With the Hook, we wanted to try a different approach to be more impactful on an annual basis. And we don't want to make the decision on our own because we only have a certain aspect of the community that we're involved with. The goal is to work with, other organizations and really feel where that money is going to have the most impact. And so part of the strategy is to work directly with the city manager, to reach out to other organizations such as the PVPSA or Community Prevention Partners, the United Way, and see what groups are doing the most that maybe had the budget cut or could use a little bit of more financial resource. And so that's the core of our community benefits plan in Watsonville and other areas in which we operate the Hook.
Great, thank you. My second one is just a comment, and I hope that you, and I know this was asked by Commissioner Rojas earlier, but I really hope that you hire local Watsonville folk. We're the most hardworking people that, you'll meet. So thank you for answering my question. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Dodge.
Good evening, Mr. Berryessa. How are you? Nice to see you.
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to follow up on Commissioner Durantes Polito's questions. For myself too, I saw that that employment in I forgot the category, the title of it, rated highly in the point schedule to be able to get through the first round of applications. So I'm also curious on wages that the employees would be able to receive in our community. And do you offer a medical insurance and such like that to be able to keep long-term employees? I've heard through the community that other and not yours, I will be very specific about that there's a lot of turnover in the industry because with the retail employees, so to speak, and that we're echoing on Commissioner Durantes Polito. We want to be able to have, when we talk about employment and coming into our community, we want to be able to have people be able to make a livable wage to be able to provide for themselves. Can you give me an answer to that question?
Yeah, no problem. So as far as starting wage, our average entry level position makes in excess of $25 an hour. Because we have kind of restricted hours, currently we only offer full-time employment. So, one of the things that is an important addition to hourly wage is also the amount of hours that you get to work. So, all of our staff work between 36 and 40 hours a week. So they have a consistent schedule and support throughout the work week. In addition to our community benefits plan, we will, by our 24th month of operations, have a labor and employment plan, which also allocates 5% at a minimum of our net profits that go directly to our employees. And so that's in the form of compensation, education, or bonuses. And kind of the idea is we let the employees that are operating at that store kind of control how those resources are allocated and spent rather than us dictating it to them. But I think one of the keys to our success at the Hook in particular is we have a really small and amazing team, and we've had relatively little turnover in the year that we've been operating in Capitola, which was during the pandemic and a very challenging year. And I think part of it is because we do pay far above average wages, and we provide stability in the amount of hours in the schedule that our employees get to work. There's other perks and interest in that. Currently, we don't offer health insurance, but I do offer health insurance at my other two Watsonville-based businesses that are operating at Hangar Way right now.
Thank you. I have one other question really quick, and just so just so I've been involved in the labor movement my whole life. It seems like you believe in the right of workers to organize.
Yep, and it's actually it's a requirement of us to sign a labor peace agreement when we reach an excess of 20 employees in the
Thank you.
cannabis industry.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Glad you caught me on that one. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any. So I'll open it up to the public. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the Planning Commission on this agenda item?
I don't see any hands up.
I don't either. Okay, well then I will move to, or I'll move on and entertain an appropriate motion. Yes, Commissioner Kammer. Saw your,
I'll make a motion to accept staff's recommendation to approve this cannabis business.
I'll second.
okay. I think it was a second from Dodge first. So let's, oh, we have deliberation. Are there any additional comments?
Well, if I could, Madam Chair, I just think that
Yes.
I want to thank staff and everybody that has had their input on this over the years for us to be able to get to this point. I know we had initially these discussions 10 years ago, from what I was witness to or be able to participate in over 10 years ago, it seems like. But I think it's been a thorough process. I think I would have liked to see things moved along sooner in our community, but it's here. And I welcome good paying jobs that provide a living wage and health and the healthcare and other necessities for our community. So I look forward to where we go from here. I assume that when the annual review comes up, the applicant can be able to address some of the questions that he heard this evening. So good luck. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Kammer, do you have a comment or you
Yes,
still have
thank
your
you.
hand up? Okay,
Mr. Berryessa, I having been on the Planning Commission since you first came to us at the very beginning, and I really want to thank you for your thoroughness, your reliability, your dedication to the community, as well as your business practices. It's been really nice to have you come and have you speak, because you are, as far as your business, it's quite inspirational, really. And so I thank you for your patience with the process and for being there. And it's been, I know it's been a while, but so welcome. I'm hoping to welcome you to Watsonville with your storefront.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cole.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Bryce Berryessa. I'm so used to just calling you Bryce. It's really nice to see you. Having been involved with the cannabis movement within legalizing first medical and then commercial cannabis in the county, across multiple jurisdictions, and finally down here in Watsonville. I think most of us have always looked to you as a guide, as an expert in your field. I know you've been involved at the state level with developing the state ordinances, as well as the county, and I know you've advised as well on our local jurisdiction. And I'm delighted that you were one of the top finalists. I know that all of your business practices are spot on. We hear nothing but good things from employees, folks that work with you, And we know that you are dedicated, or I do. I've been a beneficiary through different nonprofits that I've worked with of your generosity. And so we look forward to having you in Watsonville
Thank you.
in this capacity. I'm glad you were able to expand what you have down here. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Any additional deliberation? Thank you, Mr. Berryessa, for your application and for being with us this evening. I just wanted to say that I was impressed with your presentation and your application, and thank you for continuing and furthering your investment in our community. And, thank you for all of the time that you have put in helping us to get to this point. And I appreciate it. So thank you. Seeing no further comments for deliberation, let's vote on our motion.
So the motion was made by Commissioner Kammer to accept staff's recommendation and seconded by Commissioner Dodge. Acosta?
Aye.
Cole?
Yes.
Dodge?
Yes.
Durantes Polito?
Yes.
Kammer?
Yes.
Rojas?
Yes.
Beach Olson?
Yes,
Motion passed.
congratulations. All right, our next agenda item is a special use permit with environmental review, application number 1518, to allow for the establishment of a cannabis retail store with delivery and proposed tenant improvements located at 274 Kearney Street. And I believe we will again start with a staff report.
Hello again, commissioners. Ivan Carmona again. Can everyone see the screen and my slides?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Tonight, I'll be presenting another cannabis retail facility for Charlie Mike Inc. at 274 Kearney Street. Again, the staff presentation will briefly review the background. The process we're going to kind of skip since you guys already went through it, the first project, followed by the project site and operating conditions, findings, and we'll end with staff's recommendation. So background. The subject property at 274 Kearney Street was developed in 1956 with a 16,248 square foot industrial building and a 1,469 office building. On June 7, 2016, the Planning Commission approved the special use permit for cannabis cultivation for Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance at 274 Kearney Street. On December 28, 2017, the zoning administrator approved an administrative use permit for cannabis manufacturing at 274 Kearney Street as well. And again, on October 12th, 2018, the zoning administrator approved an administrative use permit for cannabis distribution at 274 Kearney Street. And now we come to why we're here today. On April 22nd, 2021, the applicant, Charlie Mike Inc., also doing business as Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance, submitted a special use permit for a proposed cannabis retail facility at 274 Kearney Street. Here is the vicinity map for the proposed location. As you see here on the yellow dot, the facility is located on the southern end of the city in our general industrial zoning district at 274 Kearney Street. Phase one, we're gonna go through this fairly quickly again, as this applicant went through the same phase and the pre-application process. They submitted a pre-application packet limited to 125 pages. The property owners were required, business owners were required to do a live scan background check. Again, no project site was required. Phase 1, review the qualification of owners, business plan, labor and employment plan, neighborhood plan, and community benefits. We're going to skip to Phase 4, as this applicant demonstrated that they had received a score of 2,370 points out of 2,500. They ranked second in the cannabis pre-application process with a 94.80%. Once again, the reason we are here is because cannabis retail facilities proposed within the general industrial zoning district are subject to a special use permit approved by the Planning Commission. Again, all entitlement applications require an environmental review to consider the potential environmental impacts of the project before making a decision on it. Now, the purpose of CEQA, again, is to disclose any potential impacts of a project and suggest methods to minimize identified impacts. All entitlement applications approved or denied by the Planning Commission may be appealed to the City Council. In order for an official action to be overturned, City Council must find that the action taken by the Planning Commission was erroneous or inconsistent with the intent of the zoning district regulations. Now we arrive again to the project site and operating conditions. I apologize, we went through that fairly quickly. Don't want to be too redundant. This project proposes a 1,469 square foot cannabis retail facility at 274 Kearney Street. They are proposing to be open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Again, having 5 employees per shift with a maximum of 15 employees. Owners of structure is Charlie Mike Inc. They also are doing business as Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance. There are 3 owners for the facilities, Jason Sweat, Aaron Newson, and Seth Smith. Here is the proposed floor plan. This site is a lot smaller than the 11 Hanger Way. As you see here, the first waiting area is a 72 square foot waiting area, followed by a 264 square foot reception area, a 412 square foot break room, a 135 square foot secure storage and record keeping area, a 314 square foot retail area with 2 restrooms for a total floor plan of 1,469 square feet. Here is the subject site in relation to the surrounding uses. As you see on this slide, the site is surrounded by industrial uses. Now we're going to go over the floor plan circulation as the customers will arrive in the parking lot. They have 2 ways to enter, through the stairs or the ramp, which will lead them to the entrance, which they'll be seated in the waiting area, will go through to the retail area, make their purchase, and come back out the same way they came in. Now, as far as the premise diagram, this being a smaller floor plan, the common areas are limited to the waiting area and the retail area. This is where customers will be limited, followed by the limited access area where staff is allowed, and followed by the secure area where only management is allowed. Once again, the way these rooms are secure is through card key access readers, which management will provide to staff and limit their access to certain areas. Again, as a cannabis retail facility, they're required to have video surveillance. Again, this facility will have outdoor and indoor video surveillance for the parking lot and inside the building. Once again, there are over 22 cameras for the facility, which will be monitored in the secure storage room, where Watsonville Police will have access. And again, they'll have to retain all video surveillance for a minimum of 40 days. So each room is required to have a camera, as you see on the floor plan. Each room has multiple cameras, providing multiple angles and capturing all areas of the facility. Now, as far as parking, this is going to be a little bit easier as far as there's only 1 tenant on site, even though they have multiple licenses. For these facilities, only 10 parking spaces are required. The site provides 13 parking spaces and meets the parking standards for the city of Watsonville. Separation requirements. The site at 274 Kearney Street is not surrounded by sensitive uses. The nearest sensitive use is actually located on 4th Street. And if we follow along the path of travel, that use is approximately 1,300 square feet away. I'm sorry, feet away from the property located at 362 4th Street. Again, all all entitlement projects require an environmental review. This project qualifies for a Class 1 category exemption, as the project again is minor, is located in an urbanized area, and is surrounded in an area not environmentally sensitive. Again, we're going to focus on the same findings. Finding number 2, the proposed use is compatible with and preserves the character and integrity of adjacent development and neighborhoods. As we demonstrated in the staff report, the site is not located to sensitive uses. The nearest sensitive use is approximately 1,300 feet away following the path of travel. Cannabis retail facilities are conditioned with standard security conditions to provide safety for the site. Once the police department found that the subject height has no nuisances, as the facility was established with cannabis uses back in 2016. And again, the site will be required to provide on-site security 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, excuse me. Finding number 5, the proposed use incorporates features to minimize adverse effects, including visual impacts and noise of the proposed special use on adjacent properties. Again, the facility, using the conditions we've applied to the project, will have a remote security monitoring system, an alarm monitoring system, 24/7 on-site security. And again, the facility will have security lighting with motion detectors. Finding number 7, the proposed use, special use will not be materially or detrimental to the public health, safety, convenience, and welfare, and will not result in material damage or prejudice to other property in the vicinity. And again, we are reiterating the same thing. We've applied the standard conditions for cannabis-related uses. The business owners have proven to be reliable and responsible, as they have demonstrated to operate a cannabis facility at the proposed site since 2016. And again, Watsonville Police Department has reviewed the site, found there to be no nuisances, and will have access to the remote monitoring video surveillance system, which requires to be retained for a minimum of 40 days. With that said, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving the special use permit with environmental review to allow a cannabis retailer with tenant improvements for Charlie Mike Inc., doing business as Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance, located at 274 Kearney Street. That concludes staff's report. I'll be happy to answer any questions from the commissioners.
Thank you, Ivan. Are there any clarifying or technical questions for city staff? Yes, Commissioner Dodge.
Thank you very much. That was really interesting about the location and the use of the facility there. Just a question on, you said that just on parking, just to enlighten me again to a little bit on the parking requirements. If there's a substantial number of customers at the location, those parking spaces are for staff and customers, or for those, I don't know if I'm calling it customers is the right word, but it is a retail application. So
yes, Commissioner Dodge, to answer your question, it's for staff and customers.
And you said, so that's 3 or 4 spaces under the requirement?
Yeah, they're right at the close to the limit of the requirement. So they just made it. With
the reason I ask is because of the lack of the parking that's available on off the site and the street.
Well, as far as the special use permit, we don't take into consideration on-street parking. We only take into consideration off-street parking. So if there's not parking on the streets, we don't take that into consideration.
Right. Okay, that's a clarification. Thanks. I appreciate that. So it has a sufficient number plus extra spaces required for its use.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other clarifying questions? Okay, not seeing any, I'd like to invite the applicant to make a presentation.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear you? Hi, my name is Jason Sweat. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Ivan and city staff and planning commission taking the time, their busy schedule to review our plan and everything to open a retail dispensary in the city of Watsonville. My name is Jason Sweat. I am the co-founder of Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance and CEO of Charlie Mike Inc. Some people ask us what Charlie Mike Inc. stands for. It stands for Continue Mission. And that's what we continue to do, will do in the city of Watsonville. And back in 2011, 10 years ago, Aaron Newsom and myself started Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance. We started giving back to the veteran community here in Santa Cruz by allocating a portion of our garden to those veterans that were seeking an alternative to pharmaceuticals that the VA was prescribing. So at that point in everything, we formed a collective, a cooperative, and shared the wares of our garden back to the community free of charge. Each veteran member at that time received roughly about 14 grams of flour from us and everything once a month. Since then, it's we've continued that mission, and we've continued growing as a company as well. In 2016, we were awarded one of the first licenses to cultivate in the city of Watsonville. Since then, we've obtained a Type 7 manufacturing and a distribution license as well. Currently, right now, we have a store in the county. We're one of the 13 licensed stores in the county, Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance, located in SoCal. And we're looking forward to continuing our mission in the city of Watsonville, and look forward to working with the staff there as well.
Thank you for your presentation. I'd like to open it up to the commissioners to ask any questions. Yes, Vice Chair Dorothy Pulido.
Thank you, Madam Beach Olson. First and foremost, thank you for sharing Mr. I don't know if I'm saying this right, Mrs. Sweat. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you for sharing your business background. It's really inspiring to hear how you've helped veterans, and the amount of grace that you've given the veteran community. I really do appreciate that. A couple of questions. The first one I asked, and maybe you just answered it, but the first one I asked the previous applicant as well. I know this question doesn't pertain to the special use permit, but noticing that you also are one of the top ranking, second top ranking, I'm curious about what your community benefit answer was. And if it's the one that you just shared, then I guess disregard that question, but is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Yes, so on top of the Veteran Compassion Program that we're continuing to run, we also, with the exception of last year, we've conducted a toy drive and wares and goods and stuff, diapers and that sort of thing for Jacob's Heart. And also in the past for Memorial Day and everything, and we'll continue to do this when, if we are approved for the city of Watsonville, is that we, on Memorial Day, we give a portion of our sales back to the Vets for Vets organization that's located here in Santa Cruz County. They've been a great avenue for the veteran community, and we continue to help them out as well.
Great, thank you. That's really kind of you. I appreciate that. Second question, I noticed that there were no bike parking in the agenda report. Would you consider adding some to ease transportation and lessen the carbon footprint here at Watsonville?
Why, of course, I think that's an excellent idea, and probably, I'm grateful that you brought it to our attention. Yes, that would be definitely installed once we're, if improved and everything. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That is all. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Sweat.
Yes, Commissioner Dodge.
Thank you very much. Again, I'd like to echo some of the comments from our vice chair, and that being a part of the labor and employment plan, since that's not necessarily, it was part of the application process, but it wasn't for us to be able to review. Could you tell me a little bit about the wages and the benefits that you're seeking to pay your employees, which hopefully are residents of Watsonville, and to be able to combat the numbers we have with unemployment? Are you presenting a livable wage with medical insurance?
Yes, Commissioner Dodge. Currently, we pay a living wage. Currently, we have 19 full-time or pretty much full-time employees, and 15 of those are City of Watsonville residents. And that's both for our staff at the Soquel store and the cultivation and distribution facility there at 274 Kearney. Like Mr. Berryessa mentioned earlier, it's required by the state that we enter into a labor peace agreement once after 20 employees, and we will follow those directions as well and everything. And we give time off for students that are going to school. We adjust our schedule, around their schedule to give them ample opportunity to attend classes.
What are the ranges of your entry-level employment for retail?
Retail for no experience will start off at $16 an hour. With experience, 17. Key holders are $19 to $20 an hour.
Thank you. And so thank you for echoing those comments about for the right to workers to be able to organize. I understand that, but I wanted to be able to bring it out this evening for future reference. And so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Acosta.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Sweat. I just want to add, I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank, the other two, I think it's Aaron and Seth, also
Yes,
for their service. And having a lot of friends that have served, I really appreciate you guys giving back to the vet, the people that have served. It's important, and I know that you guys also are contributing to Jacob's Heart. Great things are happening there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cole.
Thank you, Chair. Again, to echo Mr. Acosta's statements, I value and commend you for your service. As a Army wife, now, but as an Army wife who was married to someone that experienced a lot of post-traumatic stress, and who was also just didn't function well on medications as provided by the VA, that the service that you provide folks is invaluable. It's not an easy place to be for a lot of our military men and ex-military men and women. It's just not an easy place. And the fact that you are continuing a mission to continue to provide, even when it is, when you're taxed very heavily for the work that you do, I appreciate that. I appreciate also how open you have always been. I've been fortunate to be able to visit your facility in its early stages. I've been to both of them. They were, everything is well run. And, it's just you do good work. And I'm delighted that you were among the top finishers in the applicants. I really am. Thanks so much.
And thank you, and for your husband's service.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to open it up to the public. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment on this agenda item?
Not seeing any.
I don't see any either. Okay, I will bring it back to the commission for an appropriate motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move staff's recommendation for the special use permit and environmental review for the establishment of a cannabis retail store, 214 Kearney Street.
Thank
I'll
you,
second.
Commissioner Cole was quick to second that as well. So, all right, I will open it up to the commissioners for deliberation. Yes, Commissioner Kammer.
Thank you, Chair Vicholson. I first wanted to thank Ivan. Thank you so much for both of your presentations. They were clear, concise. I really liked your use of color and color coding and all the arrows and all that. It was really very easy to understand. So thank you very much for that. I also want to thank Jason. I toured your facility. It's been quite a while now. I toured the cultivation facility and also the little, I guess it was an office or something. It wasn't occupied at the time, but and I know that your business, again, is, you've been with us in Watsonville for the long haul. You've been through all the processes and you've come out on top. So I really want to thank you for your business plan and for your dedication to our community, our veterans, and also to your business. So thank you for that.
Any other deliberation? Okay, I'll vote on the motion.
A motion was made by Commissioner Dodge to accept staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Cole. Acosta,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Dodge,
Yes.
Durantes Polito,
Yes.
Kammer,
Yes.
Rojas,
Yes.
Beach Olson,
Yes,
motion passed.
congratulations and best wishes on your continued work in our community. Thank you.
But thank you. I want to thank the city of Watsonville, this commission, and city staff for giving us this opportunity. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too. Okay, our next item is
Sorry, Chair Vicholson, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm going to need to recuse myself from this item because I own a property in the 500-foot limit line of the site and vicinity map. So I'm going to log out and I'll be back for the last item.
okay. Thank you so much, Commissioner Kammer.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to item 5C, which is a recommendation to City Council on adoption of an ordinance establishing a development agreement for the Hillcrest Estates subdivision located at 511 Ohlone Parkway. I believe we are going to begin with a staff report.
Hold on 1 minute. All right. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yay. All right. Okay. So last Tuesday, the City Council approved an EIR addendum, revised tentative map, and major modification for the Hillcrest Estates project at 511 Ohlone Parkway, which for about 60 years was used as an auto wrecking yard. The number of units in the project was reduced from 150 to 144. However, the overall layout remains the same. Tonight, the Planning Commission is not being asked to approve the overall development. The application before you tonight is a development agreement for the Hillcrest Estates project, which is a contract between the developer and the city that provides a roadmap directing how infrastructure, public spaces, amenities, and units will be built. Development agreements serve to reduce the risks associated with development because they clearly define how the project will be constructed. Allowed by the California Government Code, development agreements are used as a tool to minimize the waste of resources, de-escalate the cost of housing and other developments to the consumer, and encourage investment in and commitment to comprehensive planning, which maximizes efficient utilization of resources at the least economic cost to the public and provides certainty to the project applicant regarding the project. The benefits of the development agreement apply to the developer, the city, and adjacent property owners and residents because it gives certainty as to when each phase of the development will be built, beginning to end, what improvements will be built at each phase, and the process to approve modifications if necessary. In 1985, we at the City of Watsonville and the City Council adopted a process for considering development agreements. After adoption as an ordinance, the development agreement is then recorded, creating an encumbrance on the title to the property, and the benefits and burdens of the agreement are binding upon and benefit and burden both the city, the owner, and all successor owners. The project remains subject to the conditions of approval for the original project. Now, just to familiarize you all with the modifications that were approved by council last week, I'm going to go through the project so you have an understanding. So on your screen is kind of a rundown of all the changes that were approved last week. So as I said before, the original project approval was 150 units, consisting of 23 single-family detached units, 40 duplex-style townhomes, and then 87 row-style units, all on separate parcels. The project has been revised in order to reduce the construction costs for the entire project, including soil remediation, grading, design of retaining walls, as well as the unit design, the number of floor plans proposed as well. So the project is proposed to be constructed in 5 phases, as you can see on the screen, beginning with soil remediation and environmental grading, hopefully this summer, and then all development ending around 2026. Given the size and scope of the project, the applicant has requested approval of the development agreement to clearly state, again, what improvements will be required at each phase of development. Phase 1, the first phase in yellow, is proposed to be developed beginning in 2022. And then phase 5 would be finished in the spring of 2026. Construction traffic will travel on Arrington Road, which is down, let's see, there you can see my cursor down at the bottom left of your screen. And then it would travel along this street A to all the development sites, and then residential traffic for residents would be traveling along the other side of that street, and it would slowly be built out in phases so that construction traffic and residential traffic would be separated. Let's see. The table on your screen provides a list of the major items to be phased in the development and what phase will be constructed with each. And so we've got the affordable housing agreement I will go over. We've got the common area phasing I will also go over. And then the circulation, access, and improvements. So first to go into the affordable housing agreement. The development agreement incorporates the affordable housing agreement, which traditionally in projects such as these would come at the time that it would go straight to council at the time that the final map and improvement agreements would be considered for approval. So at a later stage, but what this agreement is doing is incorporating all of these items at an early stage. So we have drafted an affordable housing agreement with 144 housing units. The project is required to provide 29 affordable units, which is 20% of the project. And the distribution of those units is outlined on your screen. So you see the breakdown between median, moderate, above moderate, and the total units. And then those will be further split up between all the phases. So we want to make sure that a relatively equal number of affordable units are constructed with each phase, so that we're not putting off a majority of units to an end phase and then find out halfway through the project that the rest of it's not going to get built or something like that. So this provides certainty that we're going to have a proportionate number of affordable units built throughout the project. And then moving on to common area improvements. There are 6 common area parcels within the project, which are proposed to be improved in phases. And just hold on one sec. We've got the Area E, which is a proposed sport court and a community event space. We've got a play area and community garden in Area B. We've got the bird observation area, that would be part of the first phase. Then Area C has adult open space and a bocce ball court. And then open space D is a vista point. In the original project, this was actually a congregated area for all 150 mailboxes. And the revised project proposes to break up those mailbox locations throughout the project site, so we don't have people all congregating in one place right at the entrance of the project to check their mail every day. Not the best design originally. So again, then we also have what the applicant is proposing is a park course throughout the project site. So that people can do a running or walking course and then do push-ups or pull-ups at different stations throughout the project. And then we've got the slough trail, which will be going around the project site and connect with Sunshine Gardens, and that's proposed to be constructed as part of phase 3 of the project. So just to go through street improvements and access, the extension of Loma Vista, which is the main access to the site, and on your screens, let's see, it's going through right here, will be completed by the end of phase 1, so prior to occupancy of the project, as that is the public street right of way to the project. That'll be the main entrance, and it'll be the primary ingress and egress for the subdivision. The roundabout at Loma Vista and Ohlone Parkway, shown here, is proposed to be, it will be constructed during phase 3 of the project, when approximately 59 of the units will be completed. And then Arrington Road has been approved as a one-way ingress only right here to the project site. Again, that's going to be used for construction traffic while the project is being built, and then it will be improved for ingress only. As part of the approval last week, and memorialized in the development agreement, there are specific conditions of approval required, including mitigations required in the original EIR as amended. It includes remediation of contaminated soils. at the council meeting last week, council approved a different plan for remediation of the contaminated soils on the site. This proposal is on your screen. The original project proposed to remove 35,000 cubic yards of contaminated dirt, which is essentially about 2 feet of soils from the site, whereas the revised plan will bury approximately half of that soil in the remediation pit, which is the kind of under the street in the brown shaded area on your screen. And then that would be capped with concrete and again located in the street. The updated remediation plan is something that is approved by the County of Santa Cruz Environmental Health. And that plan was submitted to the county for review in January. It's currently undergoing public review and noticing. And that noticing period will be closing on, I believe, July 25th. If there are major modifications required by the county for this remediation plan that necessitate major changes to the grading or retaining walls or the tentative map for this project will need to come back to the city council for additional modifications. There are 5 findings that must be made to support adoption of a development agreement by ordinance. And those are on your screen. The development agreement, again, clarifies the timing for items such as the location of the affordable units, the common area amenities, the trail development, the unit phasing, the street improvements, emergency access, the roundabout at Loma Vista, stormwater improvements, as well as the improvement of Arrington Road as a one-way ingress. The development agreement defines what public amenities will be constructed at what phase of development so that equitable improvements are made with each phase. By carefully identifying what amenities and improvements are required at each phase, through the development agreement, the city and the developer provide a clear roadmap for the project and follow good land use practice. And by clearly outlining the improvements required at each of these stages and providing a timeline for which all of the phases of development will be completed, the agreement ensures that the overall project will be a benefit to the community and will not become detrimental or a nuisance to the adjoining neighborhood. So the approval of the development agreement aligns with goals 1, 3, and 5 of the 2021-2023 strategic plan. Goal 1 calls for the city to work proactively to remove barriers to accessing stable, quality, and affordable housing, and to strive to create new opportunities to add housing to meet current and future needs. To summarize, the development agreement for Hillcrest Estates provides a clearer roadmap for the phase development of the project and provides certainty for the developer, the city, and the community regarding how, when, and what parcels, amenities, and public improvements will be constructed in the project. Should the Planning Commission have specific issues or any other comments, they should be stated during this Planning Commission hearing, and those can be made part of the minutes and made part of the public record for consideration by the City Council. And just to remind the commission and those watching, this project in its entirety was approved by the City Council last week. This is just the development agreement, which memorializes the conditions of approval, the EIR mitigation measures, and then the phasing and affordable housing agreement for this project. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council adopt an uncodified ordinance establishing a development agreement for the Hillcrest Estates subdivision. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Susie. I'll open it up to the commissioners for any clarifying technical questions. Yes, Commissioner Dodge.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just to clarify too, questions that I've been asked is, could you just, I'll ask 2 or 3 and you can answer them all in the flow. Why did this go to the city council before it came to the planning commission? We're talking about the adoption of a development agreement. And there's been some comment that we've received about the remediation of contaminated soil. But that is, so I guess the first question is, the contaminated soil is not an issue in front of this planning commission this evening, right? Because the city council has already made a decision on the remediation of that. And again, why did it come to the planning commission?
That's correct. Thank you for those questions. So the reason that it seems probably to many that this is kind of backwards. So our municipal code requires that when a project has been approved and then it comes back for modification, it goes back to the final approving body. So the entire modification and tentative map project went to city council last week because that was the final hearing body. The development agreement has not been to public hearing or approved before. It's something that's new. And the municipal code requires that development agreements go to the planning commission first with recommendation to city council. So that's why it's coming to you now.
Addressing the mediation plan, the remediation of possible contaminated soil. Are we setting a precedent for allowing by allowing and this is a question, are we setting a precedent for allowing that kind of remediation on other projects? I expressed a concern on a project that came to us in the recent months about contaminated soil. Are we setting a precedent for not transporting soil out of the community and allowing for the possibility of it remaining on site?
Again, the remediation of contaminated soil is permitted through the County of Santa Cruz, not the City of Watsonville. And so that is not setting a precedent for the City of Watsonville. It would be the County of Santa Cruz that would be approving this.
Thank you very much for those clarifications.
You're welcome.
Other technical questions? Yes, Commissioner Cole.
And I had a couple of questions. One, Susie, can you go, because I didn't understand what you meant when you said your slide about 1985 and creating something for something. It's on one of those slides. I don't understand that at all.
Okay.
Can you please explain that?
Yeah, it's just a procedural thing. So at the state level, the state adopted regulations that said, yes, local governments can adopt development agreements. They can also adopt a process to approve development agreements. In 1985, the City of Watsonville adopted the regulations so that we could approve development agreements.
Okay. So that's just the process in the city that said that we as a city can enter into developmental agreements with whoever.
Yes.
Is this common?
Yes.
And you had said that the applicant had asked for this agreement?
Correct. This is something that it's up to the, we can't force an applicant to enter into a development agreement. On the same token, we are not beholden to approve a development agreement or enter into one if it's not in the best interest of the city. But sometimes it is the best path forward, especially if a project is either really complex or it requires phasing, because under standard zoning practice in our municipal code, development projects are valid for 2 years. And obviously this project is going to be built over several phases. And so it's kind of imperative that they do a development agreement. And then at the same token, we are able to identify clearly what's going to be built at each phase. Another project, I mean, in the city of Watsonville, it hasn't been done for a long time, but another project that did include a development agreement was the Target Shopping Center way back when as well.
Okay, and so who came up with the revision? Did the city have input in that, or is that from the developer?
As far as the revised project?
Yes.
Um,
Sorry.
Yeah, no, the developer came to us with the proposed revisions, and then we have been working with them to refine the project over about the last 6 to 8 months.
Okay, so you have a substantial amount of time invested on the city's part of working with this developer.
Yes, which is
Time and
standard for
resources.
projects of this size, yes.
Okay. When was the project, because it predates me, but when was the project first proposed?
The project, I think the application came in 2017. It was approved by City Council in August of 2018.
And nothing's been done?
Last summer, they went back to council and received an extension of entitlement so that it didn't expire. And then I think I want to say about November, that's when the city started working with the developer on the proposed revisions.
Right. And how did COVID affect that? Is that part of why they're asking for a revision?
No, it's yeah, the revisions are all essentially to improve the project and make it more cost effective.
And let's see. I have a couple more notes here, sorry. I guess one of my other questions is, do we have any say in the agreement itself? As commissioners, are we able to approve with conditions?
You can recommend changes. There are not conditions that we would add to the development agreement.
Okay.
But if there is some language in the development agreement or something in there that you think should be modified, you can definitely make that recommendation.
And is it not better to wait until the county approves or doesn't approve of the hazmat, the hazardous materials?
Well, again, like I said, the council's already approved the project. So
Okay.
all that the development agreement has in it is it's memorializing the remediation plan that council approved last week.
Okay. And you said that the window is still open for public review and public comment?
Correct.
Regarding, how does one access that?
I believe it's, I think you can find it on the county's website. I know we can share that with you.
Okay, I should, yeah, because I'm imagining, given that this was we got several correspondences from neighbors, and I'm assuming that might be interesting for them to know how to do that, and that they that they are able to comment until, I think it said the 24th actually, but I may be wrong, of July. According to that, I mean, I think that, I know we always try our best and the county tries its best to notify folks of what's going on, but sometimes those are difficult to find on our own. So I appreciate that. There was also a slide where you, where one of the, I guess, criteria was that the project would not be detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare. And I do have an issue with that right now with the soil. It's really hard for me to see because I haven't been in there I didn't take the field trip and I don't believe I can get in there anyway. About where that corner is that inland? How far is it from the slough? Where the corner of the roadway where this hazardous material and lots of it is supposed to be buried and capped.
Let me, okay, this is weird. You can't see my screen, can you?
Not right at this time, no.
For some reason, oh, there we go.
Thank
For a
you.
minute, I couldn't share my screen. So, okay. So here is the edge of the containment area.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the rain garden. And then this line right here is the edge of the slough. So we've got about this distance.
Which, looks like this to me. How far is it in real life?
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, Susie.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I don't have it measured out, but I would say it's probably at least 100 feet. We do have the applicant who's here, who can help give some more information as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And about how much is 17,000 cubic feet?
Cubic yards.
Cubic yards.
It's a lot. And again, the applicant could probably put that into truckloads for you.
Okay.
Definitely. I just want to, remind you that
I know.
council has approved this plan, and unless there's a major issue that the county has in this remediation plan, which, that could be the case, then it would come back to us. But if the county of Santa Cruz, who has the jurisdiction over approval of this.
Okay. Can you talk to me about developer fees?
Yes. The project is required to pay all development fees. As part of the development agreement, they are proposing to lock in fees and not have them increase every year, but rather have them increase every 3 years. This is something, these are details that are relatively standard for development agreements and part of the negotiation between cities and the developer. So that they would lock in, let's say, the fees for 2021, 2022, and then in 3 years, we would be increasing those fees.
Okay, and do we know what that scale looks like? Is it going to be?
Fees usually go up by, oh gosh, by 1 to 2%. It's, I'm trying to think of what the word is. It's not the cost of living, it's the, Alan, you might know the word for this. What is it where our city fees go
Consumer
up?
Price Index.
CPI, that's it.
Okay.
It's CPI each year. So usually each fee goes up by $1 or $2.
Okay. I know it probably doesn't matter, but I wanted to know how that roundabout would affect the one bikeway, completely separated bikeway that we do have over on Ohlone Parkway.
Let me pull up the, all we have right now is a conceptual of that, so it is not, it's not completely designed out,
Okay.
but it's definitely going to be a priority that we don't impact any separated bikeways in the city limits.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all I've got right now. Thank you for your time and expertise.
You're welcome.
Yes, Commissioner Rojas.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Susie, thank you for the presentation and for all the preparation and materials. Just a few questions. So one is I wanted to understand, and I don't know if this is a technical term, can you tell us what uncodified means? That was part of what we're being requested. I just wanted to understand what that means.
Let me
Sure.
take that one.
Okay.
So if ordinances are put into the municipal code, because they're going to be looked at year after year after year. For example, the utility ordinance, which sets the standards for utilities, and it goes on for until the council revokes it. Those are in the municipal code, so they're called codified. There are a few times when ordinances are not put in the municipal code because they're of a shorter term, or they're only required because of a third party. The third party situation occurs sometimes when the city participates in issuing bonds. Sometimes the lending institutions want an ordinance because it's a little more formal. And the other time is situations like this, where there's going to be a significant decision made by the council, but it's not going to affect other parts of the city. It's not generally applicable to other parts of the city, and it will have no force and effect after a certain number of years. So that's the difference between codified and uncodified.
That's really helpful. Thank you. And then, so my next question is, just so that I understand, is the development agreement like a living document? And is there like an editing process throughout the life of the project that both parties sort of work on together?
Well, once it's adopted, it's not changeable. However, a development agreement is reviewed annually by staff and the city council. So if any changes need to be made, they would be made at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just add that the point of it is to not be changeable.
Yeah.
The point of it is so that the city knows what the developer is going to do and when the developer is going to do it. And the developer knows that the city has promised to do certain things. Now, as Susie says, that's reviewed annually to make sure that things are progressing normally. It's just a review. It's not a change, just a review. And there could be some time in the future, it's rare, but there could be a time when the city and the developer come back and say, we want to change the development agreement. As I said, I've been involved in maybe 10 development agreements in the city of Watsonville, and I don't recall one being changed, but it's technically feasible. But other than that, it's not a living document any more than a contract to buy equipment is a living document. You promise to do it and you're expected to do it.
Okay, so thank you for that. So my next question is then, so this is connected back to the county process regarding the soil review. And you mentioned that by July 25th, we expect to have response regarding any major changes that would be required from the county. So let's say I'm sorry, the cat is like going crazy. Let's say that the county comes back and does require changes, remediation. So then at that point, it's going to go back to the city council, and then it's going to come back to us as the planning commission to review a remediated development plan.
I'm thinking that depending on the depth or amount of changes that would be required, it may just continue to move on to council. It still needs to be approved by council. If there are minimal changes to the document, then it'll probably just go on to council.
My next question is, are there any drawbacks or any risks in not having a development plan for a project like this one?
Well, yeah, like I indicated earlier, that the big issue with this project is that they need to be able to afford to build the whole thing. They need to do it in stages, and they can't do it in the 2-year time period that's generally required under a standard approval. So that's really the big issue for the developer. And you know, sometimes developers do things in stages, but they're able to finish it in 2 years before the project expires. This one is it's just a lot cleaner, and it's a lot clearer understanding what is going to be built at what time, like I said before, so that when they get done with, let's say, phase 1, we're not sitting there arguing about, well, you said you were going to build this, and what about that, and how come you haven't done this? And they said, well, and it's just that clear roadmap for how this entire project is going to be constructed.
Okay, and then I have just a comment. I wanted to underscore Commissioner Cole's comment regarding highlighting to the public, especially the people who wrote to us directly. Is there a way that can we ask staff to assist with responding to those messages and providing those people the information on how to issue their comments directly to the county?
Yes, and my principal planner, Justin, has texted me and said that information was included in the notice for the city council last week. I believe we've talked to a few of the folks that have put in comments for the meeting tonight as well, and directed them to where they can submit comments to the county directly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I have a question or a comment. It's not necessarily related to the proposal for this evening for the development plan, but I am curious, with the project this size, in terms of the anticipated or projected number of families and children, like, at some point, was there a review in terms of the schools in the area and whether they can accommodate this like increase of students into the system?
Yes, the original project had a full environmental impact report that was prepared for it, that looked at all of the potential environmental issues. It was reviewed and considered and noticed to the school district as well. And the project is required to pay school fees. So yeah, all of that was included as part of the original project approval in 2018.
And then what last question, what is the full life cycle? Like by phase 5, like what year are we in?
2026.
2026, okay.
So
Okay,
5 years.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I don't see any other commissioner hands, so I'm going to invite the applicant to make their presentation.
Okay, let me see. So we need to bring over, let's see. Great. Okay, John Fry, go ahead.
Hi, hello, I'm John Fry, and I'm the project manager. And with me this evening is also David David Van Atta, who is our counsel in the drafting with both the city and myself, the development agreement. And my point, I think, in general about this development agreement was that it was an exchange by us with 6 departments to see how well we could plan what we're doing. The city made good suggestions. We had to make other accommodations that showed how we can serve the community, make a better neighborhood. And the overall thrust, I want to say, is that this helps us do the job rather than, as Susie mentioned, having arguments at the end of every phase because people didn't understand what we're doing. And so we had to plan those roadways. We had to plan for the park course. We had to plan for all the grading and all the things that we needed to do in a more circumspect and complete fashion. And I really thank the staff for stepping in and helping us do that. And I thank everybody that was involved, Public Works, Fire Department, the Building Department. So all of them had time and put a lot of hours into doing this. And we thank them for doing that. And other than that, I have no particular comments on this project to go forward. And if you have any legal questions to Mr. Van Atta, you can ask those or ones of other ones that you may have.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Commissioner Cole. You have a clarifying question.
Yes, I was wondering if you could put into terms that I could understand about the hazardous materials, the hazardous soil, that part of it will be moved and part of it will be buried. Is that correct?
It's a graduate school answer of yes and no, so I need to explain it to you.
Okay.
Short explanation is that there are 3 types of soil there. And there's one type, it's called toxic, it has lead in it. That will be hauled off, about 1,500 cubic yards. That's about 100 truckfuls. And it goes to Kettleman down in the valley. And then we have to take what we call contaminated soil, which is 6 inches over the entire site. It's about 540 trucks, and it goes to a special dump in Hollister. And then the next 18 inches approximately is called hydrocarbon soil. It is non-hazardous, okay? It's not contaminated in the fashion of the other off-haul soils that are taken off the site. That soil then is placed in a depression already on the site, and a block concrete wall with liner is placed around that particular encasement. And as the wall is built up, the soil is placed in it. And then the top of it is covered with a concrete cap. And there are tests and there's models run on it. And the leaching field and is not going to happen. It's 15 feet above that water. It doesn't have any slopes that will go into the slough because it's a concrete block wall. And that's how you avoid contaminating neighborhoods, hauling the stuff through. It's also soil that is hydrocarbon. It's just got oil in it. There's no houses being built on it. And that is a process that is under state code. We're required to monitor it. The county will be in there monitoring it. It is done probably in the state of California, that process. I was told by somewhere in the neighborhood of between 5,500 and 6,000 sites in the state of California. It is not hazardous soil. That's what
Okay.
people don't understand.
I understand. One of the little sayings I'm fond of is, remember, man, what once was slough unto slough shall return. And we have evidence of that across our city. There are spots on Green Valley Road that have layers and layers and layers of roadway where slippage has occurred over the years. There are plenty of folks that live in proximity. And can you explain what the proximity to the slough is from that concrete wall?
I don't know the exact measurement. I'd say it's in the range of about 350 feet.
Okay. There's folks that live along the slough that live closer than that, mind you, but that have lost fences when we do have those very wet years where the slough rises and encroaches upon the development that's happened along it. Even in a not so wet year, parts of the slough trail become submerged where you can't pass them. So I mean that definitely is a concern. I thank you for explaining the mitigation process. I appreciate that. And thank you for explaining the terminology, and I'll make sure that I use the correct terminology when I'm speaking and writing about this. I guess my other question is, that one got answered, sorry. Have you, I know that we received several letters from neighbors. Are there any other agencies or any other folks in the area that have expressed concern for this?
The county is the lead agency, and under the requirements of their approving the application, have contacted over 8 other agencies who have signed off on this.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. I don't know, it's a big project, and don't get me wrong, I understand the need for housing in our community is huge. And the spacing of it, the phasing of it seems like a long time in order to get from where we are now to the end. And I'm wondering if that's a normal progression. And I understand about being able to afford things, and I wouldn't be able to work on my house all at one time. It would have to be phased as well. But I also, I don't know, I'm just concerned about the length of time and whether that is attainable. Like, will this project actually get finished?
According to the marketing studies, according to what we are in the process of doing this, we should be able to do that in 3.5 to 4 years. At the same time, I want to point out, we are putting 29 below market rate units. That's a discount of $10.9 million into the community of housing for being affordable. And so it's 20%. So a lot of the time, not all of it, but a chunk of this time is to put affordable housing into the marketplace, in addition to what is market rate. And so those items take time. The other thing is that we have 6 areas that are common areas. These aren't just small little patches of a lot, and they're very large in many standards, and they have to be put in, and that takes time. We have a rain garden to take care of the filtering of the runoff of the rain that's put in, and that takes time to get done. We're putting a trail in on the North Trail and the East Trail. So all of those issues are in addition to support services to take care of that housing. And that's why we need the time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Any additional clarifying questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to open this up for a public hearing. So if there are members of the public who would like to address the commission at this time, I believe
Yeah.
someone's going to help me moderate.
All right, I
this.
see Bob Culbertson. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. I think there are some differences of opinion here. The proposed pit forms an L in Pariso Court backyard sloping up from the road on one side and the Watsonville Slough adjacent on the other. The cement wall he's talking about is not on the whole L shape, it's only on the part heading towards the slough. And on page 396.1.2 of the agreement, it says the pit with an asphalt cap will be placed on an approved county environmental health remediation plan, which has not yet been approved. The study done by the city, Thomas Harder and Company, that claims that no of these contaminants, lead, THP, or D or MO are going to be buried in this pit. It'll take 1,000 years. It studied the vertical movement down, saying the leaching would not occur. I don't challenge that report, but I do challenge the idea that that's the only danger of those contaminants being exposed to the community. This L-shaped pit is not put in the middle of a football field. It's put on the edge of a hill. One of the hills slopes into our neighborhood on Pariso Court. The other slopes into the slough. Their geotechnical study that talked about slopes says the soils around this area are unstabilized by seismic activity, by landslides, and by heavy rainfall erosion. So the contaminants may not drift down below the cap, but the hillsides could move and resulting in contaminants getting into the community. I believe your planning commission does have the responsibility to look at the general welfare and health. It's one of the directions you've been given, and I'd say that this pit is not successfully vetted. They didn't do the slope study recommended in its own report. In the report done by Miller and Pacific, on their page 2, they said that this slope is unstable and should be looked at all the way down to the slough. Additional studies should be done besides the borings that were done originally on the test. So even though you're not supposed to be looking at soils, and I will be making comments to the county, and I've already been in touch with them, but in general, the slope instability is a major concern of mine. And I don't think that the moving of contaminants from the general top of the slope to burying them in the same neighborhood is actually getting rid of the contaminants or getting rid of the danger to the community. I think you just maintain it in the community and move it all actually closer to our homes. So on page 4 of the regional geology report, it says that Providence is generally characterized by abundant landslides and erosion owing in part to the typical high levels of precipitation and seismic activity. This project was approved by the City Council on July 6th with a short public notice ahead of the Planning Commissioner's hearing, ahead of the County Environmental Health final report. And in spite of all this agreement, it says in the report that you're supposed to support that the City Council has reviewed and already approved this agreement on August 24th, 2021. A little hard to do.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Susie, you're on mute if you have other, we have other
Hello.
comments.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, Holly, you should be able to speak.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, commissioners. I had no idea all the stuff that you do. It's amazing. Thank you for doing this. Again, I'm Holly Heath. I'm on the board of the Seaview Ranch Homeowners Association. We've only known about this for less than 2 weeks. We've retained the services of a geotechnical engineer to determine any adverse effects to the Seaview Ranch homeowners in the Casitas portion of the Seaview Ranch, which, as Bob said, is directly under, and with a very steep slope, directly under the pit that they're proposing to develop, which, by the way, began as a retaining wall that they thought was too expensive. So they decided to haul out the toxic waste, and then they decided that was too expensive. So now they're going to dig a pit. We've watched this process take place. So the geotechnical report will be ready before the next city council meeting, the one that we've commissioned. And we want you to just ask you to please allow us time to have the geotechnical engineer determine the ramifications of building and digging on the proposed adjacent property. I also want to let you know, if you went to the city council meeting last week, that when it was decided that they were going to approve this, the reason that was given by one of the council members was that you, the planning commission, and the county were both going to be looking at this. And so they didn't have to dig too deeply because you were going to be the ones deciding if this was going to happen or not. So they weren't too worried about their responsibilities. Not that they weren't trying to be responsible, but they saw that there were other folks that were going to be looking at this. So anyway, we're asking you to please have some forbearance and allow us time to have this looked at by our own geotechnical engineering company. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
All right, looks like we've got Colleen. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Good evening. Can you hear me speak? Oops. Hi, this is Colleen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Just very quickly, others are handling questions also that I had on my list, but one of the things that I think is very important, and Susie, I know you kind of said it's not planned yet, but some of the concerns that came up back in 2017 were the sidewalk, the crosswalk for the school, for the children, if the roundabout went in. The roundabout had been taken out prior to last week's meeting and the work that's been done. And also someone's already mentioned the bike lane. So these were major concerns since our community. I'm in Seaview Ranch and Las Brisas and Bay Breeze. We all use this and we walk. A lot of people do, they walk. I am concerned with the 5 years of disruption. This was supposed to be 2 years. And that's what the whole plan was approved on. I do understand giving additional time, especially with COVID, but I think a lot of this has to do, excuse me, with the change in citizenship for bringing money into this country. And that was one of the reasons why it got delayed. And I don't think that was answered to Commissioner Cole when she asked her question, fully answered, let's say. I think also too that we need to make sure that the communities around are not inconvenienced. I think you're going to use the back road for construction, and it was said that for all of the construction that could be done. So I think we need to be clear on when Ohlone will be used and when the road, I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of it right now, the road in the back of the project will be used, so that we don't have disruption to the school children, to the crossing guard at the sidewalk, you know, crosswalks, These are things that will really, really delay. If it takes us 15 minutes to get out of Ohlone on, or excuse me, get out of Loma Vista onto Ohlone, this will be a real impediment to our community. That's all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment.
We've got Noriko. You should be able to speak.
Hi, good evening, planning commissioners and city staff. My name is Noriko Akiyama Ragsack, and I live on Paraiso Court in the Seaview Ranch subdivision. The Hillcrest Estates development is planned to be built above my backyard. After reading the newly updated development agreement, there are several points of concerns and clarifying questions. They are as follows. Assembly Bill 178. Solar panel requirements are enforced for all new structures built in the state of California as of January 1st, 2020. Since this project has yet to build any structure, it stands to reason that this development will be adhering to this Assembly Bill requirement. Will this requirement be added to the new agreement? Parking. Less parking spaces are planned in the newly proposed modification. Parking in any subdivision is scarce, especially in my neighborhood. My guests have no choice but to leave their vehicle either in the parking lot at Landmark School or across the street on Loma Vista Drive. Both areas are hotspots for car break-ins. How does the development plan to account for the overflow of vehicles? Roundabouts. A roundabout at the intersection of Ohlone Parkway and Loma Vista Drive. What current and updated traffic studies have been completed to ensure this is a safe undertaking? From personal experience, the roundabout at Ohlone Parkway and Manabe Ao Road, drivers do not navigate safely through it. This newly proposed roundabout is near a school and will presumably have more foot traffic than the other roundabout. Is a roundabout safe near a school where children will be crossing the street multiple times per day? The CCNR. In regard to the proposed L-shaped pit where contaminated dirt will be buried along Arrington Road, who exactly will be accountable for the maintenance of this contaminated pit? On page 29 and 30 of the updated remedial action plan, the geologist recommended, quote, a land use covenant condition for this remedial alternative include a requirement that the thickness of the fill cover be regularly checked and maintained as necessary to provide the protective cover that serves to eliminate potential exposure to any underlying impacted soil, unquote. In conclusion, I do not feel comfortable or safe without knowing how exactly 17,000 cubic yards of contaminated soil will be buried, monitored, and maintained. What will happen to the pit if there was a major catastrophe or heavy rainstorm? Please provide the answers to these concerns to make sure that the development on the former cluster's wrecking yard does not wreak havoc on the future subdivisions, the current subdivisions, my neighborhood, my home, my backyard, the place that I used to consider my safe refuge. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay. Jovita Quezada, you should be able to speak.
To the Planning Commissioner Jovita Quesada, I own 6 Paraiso. We do need houses, but not where there's contaminated soil, which will affect the wetland slough and the residents surrounding the Custer Car Junkyard. During the past 30 days, California had 1 earthquake of magnitude 6.0, 1 quake 5.2, 7 quakes between 4.0 and 5.0. Also, 4,777 earthquakes, 4.0 and below, according to Volcano Discovery. The United States Geology Survey agreed with the numbers. We're in the San Andreas Fault region, and it can cause major cracks and damage if they bury the contaminated soil in a cement sealed pit on the edge of the Custer Car Junkyard. There is a slope where the Seaview Ranch Casitas residents are at the bottom, which will impact them if there is an earthquake. I noticed a list of the chemicals on the contaminated soil. It is very alarming to find out what each chemical can do to the Woodland Slough and to the health of the surrounding residents. Also, they plan to put a roundabout on Loma Vista and Ohlone Parkway. People drive fast on roundabouts, and it's too close to Landmark School. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment.
All right, looks like Carolina should be able to talk.
Hi, yeah, Carolina Portillo Franco, thank you again.
Oops. Sorry about that. Should be able to speak again, I think.
Hey, Susie,
Yeah,
can
sorry.
you hear me? Okay. So just, I want to thank everyone for their time and efforts for being here, both city leaders and commissioners and the public and community. I have many of the same concerns as my neighbors who have expressed themselves regarding the roundabout, the slope instability with the landsliding, the on-site remediation and contaminated soil. And I also have a concern about the location of event venue common area E. And I think it was Susie who mentioned that part of a development needs to not be a nuisance to the neighboring neighborhood that it's going into. And this roundabout, I'm very, very concerned because children cannot navigate speed of traffic. They just cannot do that. Their brains are not developed yet to understand speed of traffic, trajectory, etc. People with disabilities oftentimes need more time to walk, and or if they're handicapped in other ways, might also not be able to understand the speed in which someone is driving, and they might not be able to move faster as well. We are a community that has a lot of people that walk for exercise, or we're fortunate to be by Target and Nob Hill and all those places, and trying to be green. A lot of people in our community walk. I mean, you'll see people out there walking all the time. We do have tons of cars that speed by there, whether it's even the police. And we've had a lot of incidences where cars have come up onto our sidewalk, and I think a roundabout will just probably increase that. Unfortunately, I don't know if anyone has ever gone over by Clifford. That roundabout is a total mess. I mean, it's scary, I think, both for drivers and for pedestrians. And it's been there for several years now, and it seems like drivers still cannot navigate that. So I'd really wish that was not put back on here with the previous developer, Lisa Lee. It had been discussed with the community, and she had agreed to invest instead in stop signs or something of that nature. In regards to the event venue, I'm just curious if the city will be putting limits on what can take place at that venue. Is there going to be time limits into the night, like a curfew, etc.? And I'm just really disappointed because I thought at the city council meeting, it was mentioned that the planning commission would have a chance to review this, and it seems like that is not the case. And again, thanks for your time.
Thank you for your comment.
I don't see any other raised hands. Wait, nope. Oh, yes, sorry, Frank. You should be able to speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great, thanks. I put some notes together, and I wanted to give everyone else a chance to speak first, so I tried not to duplicate the same information and go over it again. I'm a resident here at 12 Valle Vista in the Casitas, and I have some concerns, and so I'll address these. Susie, I want to thank you for the presentation you did, get everyone up to speed again. This project's been going on a couple of years now, and it's good to be reclarified on a lot of things to see where we are. And I appreciate that. And I wanted to, it takes me back to, there's a point I wanted to make. that I believe Gina Cole also brought up, which is detrimental, which is the term. And one of the things that was mentioned in the report is that there's 5 things that you look for approval. And in them is the general welfare. And is this, I guess it's the general welfare, meaning we need more housing. I can understand that. But is it detrimental? It shouldn't be detrimental to any corresponding nearby neighborhoods. And my point is that just based on the concerns I'm hearing, if it's the roundabout, it's the entrance itself that I think has a limited carrying capacity for the volume of homes that are being built. And I want to point out too that the congestion and noise is going to be ridiculous there. So how is that not detrimental? And then my question to everybody, to the city, is that if it is found to be detrimental, so it's not following those 5 things that needs to be good for approval, what is the city going to do to rectify it? So if it is found out that we do need another road and the development's built and we're in 2026, is there a backup contingency plan? What is the city going to do at that point? Are we going to be stuck with it? And between now and 2026, is Arrington, are they going to continue to pursue Arrington? Because I think that area or another area does need to be approved. Again, concerns are roundabout. I agree with people. I see people speed through it all the time. I think it's very dangerous near a school. I would rather have a full stop there. However, a roundabout is going to facilitate traffic quicker. So I'll be able to get out of the casitas if I'm going somewhere. I won't have to wait maybe 10, 15 minutes to get out because of the traffic coming from the new development from Hillcrest. And the congestion noise, I think, I'll tell you, living in these townhomes, there's a lot of noise, and these townhomes aren't constructed to the highest standards, I don't believe. I hear noise from my neighbors all the time, just when they close their door. Cabinet doors in the kitchen, hearing them running up and down the stairs. Outside noise comes in very easily. So I think that's going to be at a greater amount, and it's going to be louder. So I think the congestion and the noise are 2 things that are going to really impact the casitas, in addition to the concerns that everyone else brought up. But my main question is, in order to rectify this later on, if it is deemed that it has become detrimental and a mistake was made, are there any backup plans? What's a contingency plan that the city has? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to commission for an appropriate motion. And I'll just remind the public that we need a motion in order to have deliberation.
Well, can I ask a question to staff? Or should I-
Yes, Commissioner Dodge.
I wanted to be able to acknowledge a lot of the concerns that we heard from residents and community members today, but I would like, and what's in front of us and what we're able to vote on, I think we should be a little bit, maybe you could repeat what it is that we're going to be able to, that's our duty, I guess, is, to be able to vote on. I asked earlier about the remediation efforts, and that is not part of what it is that we're voting on in establishing this development agreement. We're voting on just more or less the timetable of establishing the development agreement. So I understand how things become emotional, and I just want to be able to be, maybe staff could repeat. And I'm sorry that other members of the city council might have not had the clarification or the understanding of what it is that would be asked of the Planning Commission this evening. So my understanding is we're talking about establishing a development agreement, and that mitigation efforts still could be appealed to the county, and it's already been approved, so to speak, by the city council. Am I not correct on that, staff?
Correct.
So what's in front of us this evening is the development agreement to move the procedure, the process along further, and not necessarily us being able to add anything to the agreement that was reached by the city council the other night.
Correct. The circulation, the use of Arrington for a one-way ingress, the development of a roundabout in phase 3, the use of Loma Vista as the main access point for the project, the open space areas, those were all, and the remediation pit, those were all approved by council last week.
That's my understanding. That's my understanding, Well, with those things being said, that we're asked being approved the development agreement, which is along the levels of the timetable for the developer to be able to move forward. And he's had these discussions with this developer has had these discussions with the city over a period of time already. Am I not correct in that? Staff?
Yes.
I'd like to move the motion to recommend the city council of adoption of an ordinance establishing development agreement for the Hillcrest Estate subdivision located at 511 Ohlone Parkway.
Thank you. So there's a motion to approve staff recommendation. Is there a second?
I'd like to second.
Thank you, Commissioner Acosta. So now I can open it up for deliberation. Commissioner Rojas, I saw that you had your hand up. Do you have a comment or a question?
I did. I was actually going to make a different motion, but Commissioner Dodge beat me to it. So I'm not sure what would be appropriate. If I should make some comments that relate to what my motion was going to be. I think it relates to Commissioner Dodge's motion.
So we have a motion and a second. So we are deliberating on that motion, and I believe procedurally we need to vote on that motion. So it's not the right time to make another motion. Is that
right?
Absolutely. Well, if I can, I'll just make a comment then, if I may.
Okay, absolutely.
Now on the motion. So I appreciate. I've been listening to all the comments that were made from the public, and it's very compelling. And thank you, Commissioner Dodge, for asking the staff to reiterate again what our charge is. And I think that was really helpful. And to me, in terms of being responsive, we've heard from the public and what our role is and our scope is. In my mind, one of the only tools that we may have available to us at this point is to wait for the county's report, right? To know whether there's any other remediation that would be asked for regarding the soil. And so I would say that perhaps one of the only reasons why I may vote against Commissioner Dodge's motion would be I might be interested in tabling this discussion until we hear the county's response and then consider the item at the next meeting.
Just to jump in, if the Planning Commission chooses not to recommend approval of this, it will still move on to the council. It will not be coming back to the Planning Commission. And again, it will be at the council level that any changes to the remediation plan would be addressed.
If I could add, this is discussion of deliberation time period. I was interested in the charge that was in front of us at this particular point. It seems to me like a discussion of remediation of some of the contaminated soil. The city council already approved some sort of modification to do that, which is the pit or whatever the term is, because the original was taken out of the haul it out. Original motion. The original idea was to haul it all out, right? And this was some that came out of discussion what the city council approved on doing. I still think that there's time to be able to interact with the county And I think that's where really the discussion is on the, not that I don't want to have the discussion this evening, but what the charge is still, it still goes through this, the county could still make recommendations and or they're still formulating, I guess, their plan or what, or maybe that's the wrong phase of it, so that this still could affect what the city council has already approved. So I was, I was trying to address the concern when it isn't voted in front of us. And so if this motion is unsuccessful, I would also understand the concerns of planning commission members and welcome the opinions to it. I'm open to what everybody has to say. I do understand the concerns. I do understand the residents' concerns. I understand the impacts and all that on the schools in particular, but that's not necessarily what it is we're being asked to look at. I believe we're being asked to look at moving the development agreement, which has a time schedule in front of it. And I think that's why I made the motion to move forward, because I believe it allows for continuation of dialogue from the community. Am I not correct on that, staff? I mean, there'll be more continuation of the dialogue because they'll still have to go to the county and they'll still have to come back to the city. Am I correct?
Correct. The county has yet to approve the remediation plan, and if there are changes required that affect the entitlements for this project, it will come back to city council.
I know that was a complicated answer. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Commissioner Dodge. Commissioner Cole.
Thank you. And this might be Alan or Susie, are we able to make recommendations to city council at this juncture, at this point?
Regarding the development agreement itself, yes.
I agree with Susie.
Okay, so we could look at pieces of it and make recommendations that they approve or not approve, or that they look at those more closely, which puts work on you guys, I know, Susie.
Yes, correct. So the things that council hasn't already approved, and like I kind of outlined before, there's remediation measures, there's the remedial action plan. Those are being memorialized in the development agreement. Those have been approved by council. However, some of the phasing, the way that fees are going to be set up and paid, what building code the project adheres to, the different phasing of amenities, those things are things that Planning Commission can make recommendations on.
Okay. What about the solar?
The answer
Piece.
to that one is it's already required. Is the 2019 building code requires that.
Okay, so that there will be solar, because I know it wasn't in the original plan, but there will be solar
Yes.
on these buildings. Is there a requirement for charging stations for electric vehicles?
There is a requirement in the building code to make it ready for charging stations so that if, let's say, if you have an electric vehicle or a hybrid electric or something, that you would have the wiring in your garage to be able to get that charger and plug it in. Each garage is not going to be equipped with a charging station because, you know, it depends on which car you've got. If you get a Tesla, you get that charger, and then of course, not everyone is going to need a charger, but they're set up so that you don't have to have your, you know, all the power upgraded in your house to be able to have a charger for your car.
Okie doke. Is that something that needs to go into this motion, or do we vote
That's already in
on
the
this?
building code.
That's already in the building code,
Yeah.
so it doesn't have to go into this motion.
Correct.
It should be. all-
So then regarding, as you were saying, the phasing, is that something that needs to be, do we send that separately as a recommendation, or does that go into our motion?
That would go into your motion. If there are things that the planning commission wants to change about the development agreement, it would go into the motion.
Mhm. And the fees are set, but the fee schedule is not.
Yeah, the fees, what the development agreement proposes at this point is that they would use the current permit fees for the next 3 years. So in 2024, then they would move up to the 2024 fee schedule. But generally, our fees increase every new fiscal year. So July 1st of every fiscal year, our fees increase by CPI, so a couple dollars for each fee.
Okay.
So this project would be increasing only every 3 years instead of every year. And that is something that the commission can say, well, I don't think that's fair, or, hey, I think that's too soon, either way.
Okay. And then what's the timing of that within our motion? Do we need to, do I need to provide a amendment, a friendly amendment?
Alan,
Sorry, Alan.
he's in the dark. You're on mute, Alan.
There, I'm up in Idaho, so I'm in a limited situation here. So what I would do is make an amendment, not a friendly amendment, just make an amendment and say, I'd like to amend the motion to add a recommendation that the council do X and get a second for that. Vote on that amended amendment to the motion. And if it's successful, that's not me, I don't think. And if that's successful, bring it back to the main motion, and then you vote on that amended motion, which would say that you approve the development agreement with a recommendation that you do X. That makes sense? And I can break it down one by one if it would be helpful.
So it's really only those 3 pieces that we could propose an amendment to for.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure which the 3 pieces are. Typically, you do one at a time because otherwise you have people voting no because they oppose one of them, but not the other 2, or they vote 2 and not 1. And so it becomes very convoluted because people are voting yes or no, or especially no, because they don't support all of them, but they support some of them. So you typically would make a motion to do X. If that's successful, you make a motion to do Y and Z, and people get to make a choice.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? I don't know how exactly to formulate that in my head.
Okay, so there's a pending motion, the main motion made by Mr. Dodge. And so you would say, I would like to make a motion to do whatever it is you want to do, that item, and seek a second for it. And see if there's any debate on it. If there's not, vote on it. That'd be the first step. Just pick one of those things you want to change. I think you're muted.
Okay, thank you. Lots of things going on in the background. I would like to make a motion to amend the rollout of the fees of the developer fees. I would like to change that to every 2 years instead of every 3.
Okay,
Is that-
so then somebody would have to make a second. And if there's no second, then the motion would fail
Okay.
for lack of a second. Then you come to your
I'll-
next item.
I'll
That's why
second.
we're doing it.
I'll second the motion because this is to make a recommendation to the council.
Correct.
Yeah, I'll second Commissioner Cole's motion.
So now would be the time to deliberate that the motion to amend.
Part of the reason why I would recommend this is because I think that it may help keep things going on track as far as the completion of the project. I feel that that 3 years is too long to hold at the current price. And then I think that would be incentive for the developer to keep moving along the timeline that they've proposed.
Through the chair, I'm the counsel for the developer. Is it appropriate for the developer to have an opportunity to respond to this idea, since this was something that was negotiated as part of the discussion dealing with the development agreement?
That's up to the chair.
Yes, I'll allow you to respond to that motion.
So I think John Fry should be able to respond since he's been the person that's been dealing with the economics of this. The fact of the matter is a development agreement provides for a timeline. A great deal of what happens in the timeline is what happens in the marketplace. And as John said, we've sought to have market studies and the like as to when things can be built and when things can be sold. So I don't think that the development fee themselves is an incentive or disincentive one way or another. What makes a project work is getting a good design and getting it underway and getting it developed and constructed. Whether it takes, the best of all worlds, we will do the phases faster instead of slower. And I think that's what we hope for. Now, John's unmuted, so I guess he can speak now.
The timeline for the fees for 3 years means that the type of buildings that we're building, the finish off of the ovens and the stoves and the tile and everything else, they also face costs. So it's a simple economics. If you can hold the cost of some things, then the customer gets a product that's better than if you have to start lessening that product to pay for the ongoing increases. And so I think that it's not unreasonable, given the other things that we have given for including 50% open space instead of 27% that was in the last plan, by doing one or two more common areas. These are all things that having the fees every 3 years let us have funds to build the other way. It's a trade-off. And so as you take away, then other things get taken away also. And this is a balance. And it's also a balance about increasing prices. And we're trying to take care of building this community as fast as we can. And hopefully we don't pick it apart, because that's the kind of problem I inherited when I came here 14 months ago. And a lot of things didn't work. And finally they found out it failed.
So that's our response to that motion. We appreciate your giving us the time to make that response. It's an economic thing that when you look at when you have to pay fees and how much fees you have to pay and when they get increased has an impact on the economic, viability of the project. And so the whole idea, as John mentioned, is we needed to have a give and take with respect to how much this project's going to cost. And as you pointed out, when you have increases in cost, that'll be increase the expenses for home buyers to purchase. As you know, there's a huge amount of burden on housing projects for the various fees that the cities and the counties can impose. I don't have a number, Susie, but my understanding is it can be as much as $100,000 per house. And so this is something that should be kept in mind when the city says we want to adopt a fee. Those fees basically either cost the developer, or if the developer can pass the fees on, it increases the cost of housing. We're trying to have housing that doesn't become too expensive. So that's our response. We thank you for the question.
By the way, the fees that we paid the first time going through is $3.9 million. And so that just keeps on increasing. Thank you.
So I'll mute.
Can I ask another question of the developer?
Sure.
What are the savings for not hauling off all of the contaminated materials?
No savings.
There's no savings whatsoever.
It's cost. Costs get traded. Trading the cost gives economic viability. We're at a case of moving forward, and we are taking care of a problem for the community right now. We're off-hauling toxics. We're off-hauling highly contaminated soils. Those are costs. There's no savings there. And so you say, okay, what are you going to do with the rest of it? Well, it legally can be treated the way we are doing it. It's not like we're making up some rule that isn't on the books or isn't a problem. It's not, because it's not hazardous. And at which point you say, oh, you don't do this. Well, maybe someone could come back and argue, maybe we should only do 15% affordable housing or 10%. And this circle goes around and around. We've committed and said, yeah, we're going to come here. We're going to do this project. And we're going to make 3-bedroom, 2-bath below market houses. And we're going to do 29 of them. And that's giving. And all of a sudden we're giving, and then someone takes back and takes back.
Thank you for answering that.
Okay, is there any further
Yes,
any further deliberation on the amendment that?
Could we repeat the amendment back? I got booted off. I apologize for my internet.
Yes, of course. Deborah, could you read the amendment that's currently on the table?
The amendment was to change the rollout of the fees to from 3 years to every 2 years.
Thank you. Okay, not seeing any more deliberation. Let's vote on the amendment. Yeah, Commissioner Cole.
we got a second. Yes, that was Lucy. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I will do roll call. Acosta?
No.
Cole?
Yes.
Dodge?
No.
Durantes Polito,
No.
Rojas,
Yes.
Beach Olson.
No.
The motion failed.
Okay, so now we can go back to we're at our original motion, which was to accept staff recommendation, and then we had a second for that. So we can have further deliberation
Well,
if there is any.
Well, again, if I may, Madam Chair, it's just, this is what our charge is, even though I might have certain feelings about certain other aspects that the city council has already made a vote on. And it comes back to those three things with phasing, fees, and building codes. And so I think that that's part of what we're talking about when we talk about the development agreement, is that those things are being put in place, and which staff has addressed some of the questions concerning it. And I know the timetable was different. I wish we were having this discussion before it went to city council instead of after it went to city council, because it appears that we might be insensitive to some of the concerns that are being expressed, but we don't really have a say-so on them in this particular hearing. And that's a little frustrating, I might add. But that's why that's why I made the motion, so we could have these kind of discussions instead of talking all night long and then trying to figure out a motion. You know, I think that the phasing portion was concerning to me a little bit. I understand the need for fees, but I also understand the need for affordable housing in our community also. And I again, echoing some of the concerns of Measure U not allowing, the revisiting other growth reducing ordinances in our community. We're locked into doing infill housing, and this is part of the charge that's left over from the decrees of the past. So that's my kind of personal opinion.
Yeah, I would like to add to what Commissioner Dodge said as well, and that I appreciate that laid out in the agreement is that the affordable units will be built equitably across the phases as well. So we actually will be increasing not only the inventory of available housing, but also the inventory of affordable units. And that this is all set to happen. We're halfway through 2021. So in the next, 4.5 years. I would like to thank all the members of the public who came out this evening to make comments and to send their comments ahead of time. I did read all of the email comments that I received, and I do appreciate that you took the time to share your opinions and your views with us. And unfortunately, in this case, our task at hand is the development agreement and what is within the agreement. And so the remediation plan and the questions about the entrance and the exit, those are just outside of what we were tasked with doing here at Planning Commission tonight. And so with that in mind, I will be supporting the development agreement this evening. Are there any other comments from commissioners? Seeing none, let's call for a vote, please.
Acosta,
Yes.
Cole,
No.
Dodge,
You're muted.
Commissioner Dodge.
Well, that's rare. I vote yes on this motion.
Durantes Polito,
Yes.
Rojas,
Yes.
Beach Olson,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, we are on to our final agenda item for the evening. This is 5.D. This is a consideration of a text amendment to chapter 14-16.603, General Industrial Zoning District Conditional Uses, to allow charitable organizations as conditionally permitted uses in the General Industrial Zoning District. We'll start with the staff report. Yeah, Commissioner Cole, did I see a hand?
I just wanted to make sure that Commissioner Kammer
We
is
got her
back on
back.
with us. Thank you.
We got her back.
Good call. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm here, but I
God, I was having.
What? Oh, well, she's here. There she is. All right, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, this one's gonna short presentation. Let's see. All right. Let's see. All right, here we go. All right. So the purpose of the General Industrial Zoning District is to provide and protect an environment which will encourage sound industrial development. The General Industrial Zoning District is meant to facilitate industrial operations to the highest degree while protecting the district and adjacent land uses, persons, and property from excessive noise, odor, dust, dirt, smoke, vibration, heat, glare, heavy traffic, and other objectionable influences, and from fire, explosion, fumes, radiation, and other hazards. Sounds scary. Let's see. See if I can. Okay. So this is a portion of the city's zoning map. The portion of the city that's highlighted in that light blue on the map is the General Industrial Zoning District. So it's essentially Walker Street west to the city limits and all the way along Riverside Drive, West Beach Street, and West Lake as well. In the last few decades, the types of heavy industrial uses in the city have evolved from the historically heavy industrial, noisy factories to cold storage, auto repair, and less intensive land uses that don't conflict as much with non-industrial, non-manufacturing uses. In other cities like Santa Cruz and Monterey, uses such as churches, commercial associations, and public and quasi-public uses are allowed in the heavy industrial zoning districts with approval of a special use permit. By allowing nonprofit charitable corporations to operate in the IG zoning district, they may be able to share space with an existing industrial user, for example, a small office space or warehouse area to store goods for the nonprofit, thus better utilizing the industrial space. Such nonprofit corporations or charitable corporations would still need approval of a special use permit, which gives the city the ability to determine whether such a use would be appropriate in the proposed location. So the IG zoning district already allows a couple of these types of uses in the district, business and trade organizations, as well as labor union offices. While these buildings may have been constructed for principally permitted uses, such as some of these on your screen, they may also contain extra office space, or office space may open up that could be filled with a nonprofit as the business that occupies those buildings might modify and expand or contract depending. So this proposed ordinance amendment may allow for greater flexibility for nonprofit corporations to find office locations within the city. This aligns with Strategic Plan Goal 5, Community Engagement and Wellbeing, by supporting nonprofits in the city. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council modify the General Industrial Zoning District regulations to conditionally allow 501c3 nonprofits in the General Industrial Zone. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. So are there clarifying or technical questions? Yes, Commissioner Rojas.
I just have one question. I was wondering, what was the impetus for making this change? Is there like a specific request coming that we're expecting, or was this just like you're taking care of like to do items on the list? Like, I was just interested in knowing like where, because this is like,
where did this come from?
Yeah, where's this coming from? That's my question. That's my only question.
Yeah, and I do believe that there's a member of the public that probably wants to speak on this, but we do have some non-conforming situations in the General Industrial Zoning District. So we're really just trying to clean it up and fix things.
So you're making sort of like a course correction so that basically what's already happening is incorporated into the appropriate.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That would be allowing for conditionally allowing what is the title, charitable organizations in the industrial area. Am I correct?
Correct.
I read these things, you know.
Yeah. No comment.
Are there any further technical clarification questions from our readings?
I know. Just one
Yes.
more, I'm sorry. Just
Yeah,
so
that's fine.
I'm trying to figure out like an example. So it is an example of this like Jacob's Heart, like being out there on West Beach in that, is that like an example of what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, seeing no further hands or questions, I will open it up to the public hearing. Are there any members? Whoa, the screen changed very quickly. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the commission on this agenda item?
Yes, and Lori, you should be able to speak.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Boy, this has been quite a meeting. I've learned a lot. Thanks. Thank you, Commission, for taking such good care of our city. I think you all know that Granite Construction has donated office space and a space for Jacob's Heart rent-free, and it's worked so well. It's actually safer than the facility we occupied before. We have 43 parking spaces. We have great neighbors, and we've been able to really expand our services almost exponentially because of the cost savings, but also because of the goodwill of the community. I really want to invite all of you to come and see the center that we've created in, what before was really an empty space, not really doing the city any good. And I think you all know that I heard the comments before about good comments about Jacob's Heart, just the contribution that we've made to the community over the last 23 years. We've served hundreds of children with cancer and other serious illnesses right here in our community. And I think I just want to really bring home the fact that not having this special use permit, and it would seriously disrupt our ability to serve this very vulnerable population in a neighborhood and a community that really kind of loves and adores us now. One example is, Smith and Vandiver brought over hand sanitizer the day that it became hard for families to get it. It's those kinds of things that really make this community great. And the donation of Granite makes the community, this great. So I really thank you for considering this and for considering the children that we serve. And it's really become really a home for children and families. It's like one big memory box of care. And so I just really want to encourage you to approve this, not just for Jacob's Heart, but for other charitable organizations that could really benefit from being in some of the office space that we may have available, and it's of a lower cost for us to function. And I want to take some time to thank Susie and other staff members who have worked with us to really get like Commissioner Rojas said so well, just really get this cleaned up. We really want to go by the rules, and we really want to clean up our and make sure that we're all compliant. Please, and anyone come by anytime, just walk in, come by, and we'll give you a tour, and you can really see what this community can do.
Lori, thanks for your comment.
I don't see anyone else with their hand up.
Okay, I will bring it back to the commission for an appropriate motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like,
Yes. Oh, I saw Commissioner Kammer's hand first.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to accept staff's recommendation to allow
text amendment.
501c3s in the IG district.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Commissioner Dodge? And deliberation.
Well, I would like to thank Ms. Butterworth for addressing us this evening. It's been a while. Well, I can't see her, but it was nice to hear her voice. We all know the outstanding work and remarkable differences they've made in the lives of hundreds of members of our communities. Again, when we talk about revisiting our 2000, we're still operating under the 2000. And I sound like I'm beating a dead horse. We're still like 1,000 under our 2005 general plan, and our 2000, and moving on to when we look at creating another general plan to be able to replace that. We've been hampered by the lack of being able to extend our boundaries, so to speak. And so our industrial space is rare. There's this misconception that there's all these empty warehouses in city of Watsonville and in our industrial district, when the vacancy rate in our community is very high or very low. I forget, whatever. It's hard to get. So I'm happy that Jacob's Heart is located where they are and they're prospering. I think it's innovative to be able to look at different ideas to be able to accommodate charitable organizations. And I wish them all this success. So I'm supportive of this motion this evening. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. I would also like to follow up on Commissioner Dodge's comment about the potential that this affords. I work in the nonprofit industry or sphere and have for a long time, and I really think that there's a lot of innovation that's going on in terms of the relationship between nonprofits and community development and cities. And so just to have the ability to think about where a nonprofit corporation could be located is an opportunity. And like Commissioner Dodge said, it's not like we have a ton of industrial space available. However, allowing a nonprofit to be in that space could potentially mean other opportunities are available for other nonprofit organizations on a conditional use, in a conditionally used way. So I like that this is a way of thinking about community development differently and using the existing resources that we have in a different or slightly reconfigured setting. Anyone else? Okay, we all want to get out of here. Got it. You can call for a vote, please.
Acosta,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Dodge,
Yes, absolutely.
Durantes Polito,
Definitely yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Rojas,
Yes.
Beach Olson,
Yes.
motion passed.
All right. Lori and Jacob's Heart, thank you for being with us this evening. I'm glad that we were able to work this out for you all and for the rest of our community. And thanks for the good work that you've done and will continue to do. Well, everyone, we've made it. Thank you for your perseverance. Madam Secretary, can you send this out?
Sure thing. I'm gonna do it quick, and I got good news. Couple good news items. Okay, number one, we're hoping to schedule another downtown specific plan advisory committee meeting, hopefully probably in later August. So stay tuned. We do have the last survey. We've got the preliminary results in, so that'll be good to go over. Probably the best news for you, we have no August meeting, so enjoy. The one-day Strawberry Festival is going to be on Sunday, August 8th. So check that out. We have a new planner, a new principal planner that will be starting at the beginning of August. That is very exciting. And so we hope to introduce you to them at the September meeting. And we are going back to in-person in September. So we will actually get to see each other in the flesh in September in our old council chambers. So get ready for that. And that's all I got. But thank you all. Thank you all for checking in, ahead of the meeting, and have a great rest of the summer. And I will see you in September.
Thank you. All right, meeting's adjourned. It's
Thanks, everyone.
9:29. Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Take
everyone.
care.
night.
Thank you.